Hey everyone, back with a new commentary. This time we're getting real patriotic with it with Kevin Costner, our boy. Is he our boy? I don't know. I've never seen this movie before, but my friend, uh,
Yeah, well, he's he's becoming my boy. I mean, I'm like getting back into his
yeah,
run of
he's
movies in the
he's Patrick's
'90s.
boy.
Yeah, I was never the biggest Costner fan, but when you said let's get patriotic with Costner, I usually rankle at the idea of being patriotic. But something about him kind of gets me into the spirit, at least for the purposes of a commentary track. So I'm super stoked.
Yeah, I for the Postman, I have really honestly heard nothing about this movie. I never heard anyone talk about this movie. So we're just gonna do a commentary on it, and then I'll
Let the chips
um
fall where they may.
yeah, I'll just react as it comes. Yeah, if you'd like to watch this 3 hour behemoth alongside us, you can, we'll do a little countdown, and then you can join when we say go. All right, three, two, one, go.
Right.
Oh Lord. Oh, Warner Brothers, they're falling apart right now. They're falling
They
apart.
really
What's
are, but
happening? What's
man, some
happening?
of some of my fondest movie memories though from these guys. So,
Oh yeah, of course.
okay,
So
well we open.
So,
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is the context for this movie? Like, because I know it's like this is like a post-apocalyptic kind of thing, but didn't he just do this with Waterworld? Like, didn't he literally just do this shit? Like, this
Yes,
came out
yes.
right after. It's kind of nuts. Like, so what? Can you help me understand what this movie actually is?
Sure. This came out
2013. Oh boy, this
right.
is 2013.
Right, there's a little bit of Mad Max, a little bit of Braveheart, some Western, but very little obvious sci-fi. And you're right, this came out 2 years after Waterworld, which at the time was the most expensive movie ever made, and also starred Costner. As opposed to Kevin Reynolds, who directed like Robin Hood and Waterworld. Costner directed this himself, so it's a little bit of a return to his Dances with Wolves, a tourist phase.
Okay, all right, sure. So I've never actually seen a movie that he's directed.
Hmm.
It's interesting that like Costner's kind of he's you almost see him in like the same mold as a Clint Eastwood, but he never quite made it. He never quite had the work ethic, and he didn't start early enough, really. And it
Yeah,
just it just never really worked out with him. But he,
you know what? He's a bit like Affleck, actually. I was thinking about this, and that
oh
who's another WB stalwart, and both have a very kind of maudlin sentimentality at times, coupled with their genre predilections. And they are both they love to have sweeping a swooning young woman off her feet as like the centerpiece of whatever the thing is they happen to be doing. It's always
yeah,
about like wooing some lady. You can always count on that with Costner.
yeah. He's got like a very John Fordy sensibility, right? It's always like the Quiet Man or some shit. What the fuck am I watching? What is okay? Music by James Newton Howard. That's a good sign. I always
Yeah,
like him. He's a great composer.
yeah, he also did Waterworld, but yeah, so David Brand, the author of the original short story, said that the intended moral of the Postman is that if we lost our civilization, we'd all come to realize how much we missed it and would realize what a miracle it is simply to get your mail every day. This movie experienced some resurgent popularity and interest during COVID with the both the isolation, atomization of the people living in America, as well as the Postal Service being defunded and under attack, and obviously with the omnipresence of right-wing militia. So this is one of those movies that was panned at the time, mostly because Costner, uh, the same kind of annoying media apparatus around swirling around Hollywood existed then as it does now. There was just no online component to it, but they love to shit on Costner. he was like the Icarus, the Hollywood Icarus of the time. And so,
Well, it's funny
yeah,
in a way. He's like one of the biggest indicators of like a guy who just he literally just flew like so close to the sun that it's like it's a wonder that he even came back down in the first place. Like
yeah,
so okay, so like does he have is like the post apocalypse like a thing with him? Like
yeah.
like what so that's because I'm wondering like doing two of these movies in a row, like it's very indicative to me of I don't know, like there's something it's almost like he sees this as like an opportunity to like do another version of like a western, right? But in like a more broader way, I suppose.
Right. Well, there's I see your point. There's definitely an itch he's trying to scratch, and I think his heart lies with the westerns. I mean, because that's the genre he returns to the most. I feel like in his oeuvre. But yeah, this feels like him trying to get as far as he can in towards the direction of doing a western, while still having some kind of like sci-fi Mad Maxian residue.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. You could like imagine a universe where Clint went in that kind of direction, but he never did. And he actually stayed far away from any science fiction or fantasy,
Hmm.
really. Whereas Costner was able to like blend those in a way that, yeah,
Man, are you loving the scarf here? He's got some kind of like half-assed,
yeah.
you
Well,
know.
I'm like, he's in the desert. I'm like, why is he wearing like a, I don't know, like, I'm just trying to like understand like the world of this movie. Do you know what I got right now? For
What?
anyone who's listening, I got myself some Jones cane sugar soda. I got like
Ooh.
a green apple flavor. You want to hear this shit? I'm
Oh,
gonna
that's my
open this.
favorite flavor of that. It's so good. It's like a green Jolly Rancher.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't know why I'm drinking this one in the post, but I just had it in my fridge.
Well, you know what's funny is like this post-apocalypse skipped over like the internet and like the early aughts, and this is 2013, so it's funny. It's like the last cultural artifacts are like a TV guide and like
Yeah,
a
that's right.
big square TV. So
It's the end of
it's
history,
interesting.
baby. Fukuyama. It's
It
over.
kind of is exactly,
You
yeah.
reached the peak.
Yeah. Um, I kind of love it. The addict in me. He's about to find a treasure trove of
See, okay,
cigarettes.
like, okay, well, what I'll say is this: like, so far in the movie, like, this is well directed. It's like
It is.
he's got such a like an interesting like gravity with the camera. Like, he's not afraid to alternate between these more handheldy bits, but like he knows how to direct things in a surprising way. Like, look at this, like this shot with like the whole fucking system, and like you look at that, it's like he has an idea of how to stage things. Um, Even watching Waterworld, like it's kind of a bullshit movie, but it's not like terribly made. It just like there's nothing there to look at really.
Yeah, well, like so many things, it's just a breath of fresh air. The analog technology cranked to the max, and I mean, just look at this right here, this
Yeah,
shot. I
see,
think this has, yeah.
this is like almost it's like a Art Deco composition, but like decayed in a way.
Hmm.
See, look, it's like
Yeah.
you got a match cut, like he's doing things here, I guess. Yeah, like I again, I've never seen any of his other directed movies. Maybe I should. I don't know. There's something cool going on here, but like, okay, so the Kevin Costner, I know I haven't seen all his stuff, but like to me, it's almost he's almost a more interesting Tom Hanks. Like I've always been more predisposed to Costner in as much as I think his project is a little bit more daring and like
Yes.
it has more edges to it. And he's interested in being like the almost like the Jimmy Stewart figure, but not really. He's like more like Gary Cooper.
Yeah.
He's playing with his own imagery in a more daring way, in a more self aware way.
Yeah, well, I think, if we're comparing him to Hanks, Costner, I feel, has stuck his neck out and he's been willing to kind of fall on his face. I feel like more than Costner or more than Hanks has historically. I mean, that's part of what was so exhilarating about Hanks doing that movie with the Wachowskis, is like, how ridiculous, his multiple roles were, and kind of off the grid that he's so used to sticking to. And Costner, yeah, I don't know. I guess he's definitely not afraid to fail. I'll say that about him.
Yeah, we don't have movie stars like this anymore. We just don't.
No.
Uh,
Yeah, and I love, yeah, his humility, which you wouldn't expect. I mean, that this is such a kind of like vanity project, or it was considered at the time. But he's very self-effacing when he talks about, this spate of movies, especially. His mule, Bill. That's the name of his mule.
yeah, see, look, like this is like you wouldn't really expect to have this comedy of this sort in here. Like
Yeah, well,
he's again like it's that kind of like that broad sense of humor that I see in his projects once in a while. I mean, yeah, it's I, I've had some thoughts on this, like at least with what I recognize in like his earlier success. Like, I mean, look, he's doing like Shakespeare here. Like,
hmm
he's obviously a man interested in like like ideas of like like what is culture, what is humanity, like very broad questions. And
hmm
I think that was going the way of the dodo by the late 90s, because all of his like big movie successes are all about him like playing like do-gooder good guys, like just like fucking like the Untouchables, right? It's like the I mean, it's about as square jawed as you can get, and I think
yeah,
like having De Palma direct the movie emphasizes even more the absurdity of like the guy whose like virtues are kind of contrived, but like he sticks by him anyway. And I think it's a testament to Costner where he like takes that character seriously. Whereas I think nowadays with the Untouchables, if you had that character, it would be very arch. It would be very like, oh, but it's ironic, and he's kind of like the butt of the joke. Whereas like that movie kind of half believes in his bullshit, even though it knows it's like bullshit. But like there's kind of a pseudo nobility in it in a way. And
yeah. I
I think
mean,
like
yeah.
by the time you got to like a post Pulp Fiction world, the Costner style of I'm gonna be an earnest movie star, like it was kind of just it was nearing some not extinction, because I still think he's around and other people similarly are around, but that something happened where you could be a movie star unless you were constantly engaging with like almost like a shadow of yourself, and you had to be fighting against that shadow, and you had to be like, oh, but I'm aware of my thing, and hey, look at how cool I am, right? Like whereas he never really plays, he never did the whole like I'm gonna show up in like a unexpected crazy mean movie, whereas I think a lot of his contemporaries did, and he always was more like I'm gonna experiment on my own terms, and that just meant something fundamentally more classical and grounded in historical subjects. And he kind of split the difference between Tom Hanks and Clint Eastwood in a way, and he kind of exists in that space in between.
Wow, that's just a beautiful. I love that analogy. That yeah, he split the difference between Hanks and Eastwood. And I see what you mean, right? It's like Pulp Fiction, kind of dropping around this time. Like there will always be a place for the square-jawed heroic archetype, but it's a little bit. That was no longer the tip of the spear of culture, at around this time. The movie's coming out.
Because I think that type of like this sweeping romantic vista thing, I just think that became such a like a an object of disdain. It became like but we're Gen X and we don't give a shit about
Mm.
anything. That kind of empty bullshit that I think is like ultimately represented by like the Tarantinos and the Finchers of the world. And yeah, it's like Costner just didn't exist in that world, and he doesn't exist really in the franchise world either. He's always, again, like Clint, he's just been on his own, doing his own thing, and
Hmm.
it's almost like there's a Costner cinema, like a space that he's carved out for himself, and then there's everything else, really, which I really do respect. And God, like, I mean, so few movie stars nowadays get to actually do that, and it feels like he was one of the last of his generation to really do that. Because even Hanks doesn't have that anymore. Like Hanks just fucking gave up, and he's like, "Oh, I'm doing movies for Apple." Like he gave up,
Green, yeah, green screen movies. Yeah, it's terrible.
What was that one that he was in with fucking goddamn Zemeckis? He was like playing. He was like it was the Pinocchio remake. He was playing fucking Geppetto. Oh my
Oh,
god.
did you watch that?
Oh, it was so bad, so
Yeah.
unbelievably bad. Like I don't really like Robert Zemeckis anyway, but it was bad even for him. Like I was like, well, what happened? Like why?
Yeah, I had an inkling it would be depressing. But I gotta shout out to Will Patton, who plays
They're
the main
great.
antagonist. Yeah, and this guy, I believe his name is James Russo, his like second in command, who I first saw in Django Unchained as the slaver who, gets blown away early in the movie. He just has this, James Russo now, just has this kind of like palpable cruelty that, I feel like Tarantino must have watched this movie and been like, I need to have this guy traipsing through the Texas wilderness with some slaves, being the most evil person you've ever seen.
This feels like the kind of movie that Tarantino secretly likes. Like I imagine that's his take.
Yeah,
You know,
well, I mean,
I know
yeah.
like Will Patton has been in more movies and more famous movies than this, but I always think of him as like the crazy guy from the Mothman prophecies. That's what I think of him as.
Well, see, I only ever think of him as General Bethlehem, or that I think he's a general, right? Of Bethlehem, this character here. He's a very believable Hitlerian figure for me because he's got that spiritual smallness, contrasted with the grandiosity. He's got low cunning that makes him formidable in a time of disarray and collapse. I think like he's a right wing authoritarian that's just kind of scarily believable because he's sort of unimpressive. He's he's got these like kind of empty eyes, and
Well, he's got an innate sharpness to his features that I think is it very much fits that archetype. I because like in the Mothman prophecies, like his character is meant to be very off balance and edgy, and you're not quite sure where he's at. And um, I think, yeah, especially like as like the leader of like all these like the fucking racist goons, right? I
yeah,
see this is like an interesting way to stage this though. The idea of making like a post-apocalyptic Western type of movie, but where like racism has made like such a big comeback because that
uh-huh,
doesn't really happen in these movies too much. Usually it's about like, oh, we're fighting over oil or water or da 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 whatever, right? But like the idea of like, oh yeah, in like a post-apocalyptic America, suddenly like you have this like resurgence of like apartheid or whatever, and it's I mean, sadly, it's like I could really imagine that happening in a weird way. Like
yeah.
it's so palpably horrifying. But I look at this, like it's like there's a whole like concentration camp in this quarry. Look at this. Oh my god,
No,
this is like
I
insane in scale. What the hell is this? This is nuts. This is Gonzo. This is like this is like a fucking like a supervillain base.
I was waiting for your reaction to this set. I knew you'd love it,
It's
and the way that they
incredible.
shoot
Okay,
it.
see,
Yeah,
okay. I was looking at the budget for this movie. It was like $80 million, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty substantial back in the late '90s. And yeah, this is what it looks like. This is what a real budget looks like when you spend it. It's just like let's just build like an entire thing. Like you just do it.
make sure in particular you watch out for. There's a scene where these guys are called the Holenists, and they at night they get to watch like drive-in movies. And one of my favorite parts of the movie is when they try to put on Universal Soldier. They've got like an old print that they put on, and
Oh hell yeah.
everybody in the camp gets pissed because they'd rather be watching The Sound of Music. Okay, now this fucked me up. This is they've got the postman's mule Bill, and they're going to uh, feed feed Bill to the captives here. It's very horrifying.
Oh, for real? Dang.
Yeah,
In 90s movies didn't fuck around.
no, no. Yeah, so here's Ribisi. He's kind of playing like he was in an X-Files episode around the time this came out, playing kind of like a psychotic man-child, and that was like, yeah,
I
his
mean,
bread and
really,
butter.
don't we all, you know? At the end of the day, we all
We've all
play
had
our
our
own
moments.
parts. Yes. I feel like it never quite happened for BC. Like I haven't seen him in too many movies. Um,
Well, yeah, he's like, but I mean, he's always like so solid on the periphery, and I think he's a character actor and he's here to stay, and I think he's carved out like a pretty good career, tons of roles, but he rarely takes center stage. So this speech that Bethlehem gives is
yeah, this is some like Jordan Peterson shit.
yeah, this is exactly like his militia's like, the Maps of Meaning, the book became like a militia, or it's funny, like the name of the guy who started the militia, his name is Nathan Holm, and the book that they treat like the Ten Commandments, or like the Stone Tablet, it's called Seizing the Way to Win. And I mean, it just sounds like
Yeah,
exactly like
it's
that.
like a self help thing. Oh my god,
Yeah.
that's nuts.
I love his leather pants. It's very like, of course he would have leather pants.
Yeah, honestly, I could totally see this shit happening. Like it's fucking scary. Like I think I don't know. Like the idea of like you could just basically cultivate this entire. I mean, it's kind of what in Fury Road, what the big bad guy there does. It's
Yeah.
almost like this like death cult of like masculine racism of it's like, oh my god, the apocalypse happened because the weak people were in charge or whatever, and like now we need to like be ruled by I don't even know what to describe. Like, was it Lord Humongous? No, it's not. Humongous is the guy from Road
Yeah,
Warrior.
Morton Joe.
Immortan Joe, yes, yes. It's like Joe in that movie is like the most like sickly fucking like weird powdered up old man in the world.
Right. I
But
love
he's
that
like,
touch.
oh, but
Yeah.
we gotta let the strong lead. It's like, yeah, okay, dude. Yeah, I'm sure you're one of those people. Um, yeah, okay. So like, what caused the apocalypse in this movie? Like, what is the explanation? Because I don't think it's been quite revealed yet.
Yes, well, it's kept slightly vague, but I believe it was nuclear war, and then the emergence of the Holnists, this militia group, and the chaos that ensued. So I think like there was, yeah, a nuclear holocaust, Terminator style, that just kind of like splintered everybody, and then the right-wing authoritarian kind of like these like Joker, Genghis Khan types that swept in and kind of like, yeah, now they're back in feudalism. Yeah, that and I love
This is like
like
the most like dad shit ever. It's like quoting Shakespeare at each other with like this like hero and villain stuff. Honestly, that's the like it's the type of corny shit that I do. Like there's you just own it, right? You just own like, yeah, we're doing this. We're being fucking poetic and purple. Let's just go for it.
yeah, I mean, and I they're both kind of corny dudes, but Costner's the one that's he's owning the fact that these are just this is just cultural artifacts that he kind of like picked up because they were laying around somewhere, and he's trying to moving from town to town, restaging Shakespeare to the best of his ability to get a bowl of soup.
Yeah, he's like a
He's
bard in like D&D, you know? He's just going around
yeah,
trying to entertain people.
yeah, exactly. And you know, I there's some themes in this movie I do appreciate. This kind of like fake it till you make it. You know, it's a pile up of accidents and moments of self-interest that just kind of over time accumulate into, you know, what in this movie it's society regenerates because of a lie and an improvisation.
Yeah, I do like those movies where like the hero is essentially like a grand bullshitter. You know, like doesn't,
Oh,
you know, really have an
totally.
idea what he's doing, but just kind of, you know, flubs it. Like yeah, was like the Pirates of the Caribbean films are full of this kind of stuff. Like Gore Verbinski is really good at that. Um, if like Indiana Jones is a guy like this, uh, and
Yeah.
oh, what is it? You know that Sam Raimi Wizard of Oz prequel? It's like a bad movie, but one of the interesting parts about this is I like the idea of taking the wizard who, you know, is kind of revealed to be a sham in the first, you know, like the original movie, and like taking that character and be like, okay, like what would, you know, what's the kind of like way that we could present this in a way where it's actually like not like the sinister behind the curtain, but like what would lead someone to like build this artificial persona around themselves, and like using that as like, oh, he was like an actual magician who, in order to like save this kingdom, essentially had to pretend to be like, you know, this great sorcerer or whatever, when really he was like just a guy who knew how to like do some parlor tricks and, you know, maybe like organize some people to help him out. Like it's that tenuous idea of you know, like using like the magic tricks and like storytelling in this holistic way, I find very compelling. There's something nice about that. Although I think in that movie, like it, it's kind of evident that Sam Raimi doesn't really give a shit about any of that.
He doesn't commit to the bit.
No, 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 no. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, at this point, I don't know what he does commit himself to.
Yeah, you know, I'm not going to put him in the same category as Burton exactly, but I mean, I guess in the sense that like the gas is kind of running low on the in the creative tank. It seems like in
Yeah,
this phase.
God. I yeah, don't talk about that Tim Burton stuff. It makes me too
Yeah,
sad.
yeah. No,
I
I
loved
know.
him so much. I just fuck. You know, okay, kind of like keying into Costner as well. Tim Burton is kind of a guy who like really he only made sense in the 80s and 90s. And once that passed, like something broke. Like something just didn't like it's like, you know, you have Costner like past the, you know, the 90s, and like something just doesn't make sense about him. Same thing with Burton. Like Burton has just he's made some decent movies since then, but like you start with that fucking Planet of the Apes movie that he made, just the water was poisoned. The well just
Hmm.
could not be recovered, and I don't know. We just been living in the aftermath ever since.
Well,
It's
see,
like
that's why
it.
you got to diversify. You know, Burton can't fall back on his acting like Costner can.
Yeah, no, and unfortunately, you can't even like. I I wish that he could just convince someone. It's like, hey, maybe we can use like some sets instead of CGI. But I don't even know if he wants that at this point. Like, I don't know if he just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, isn't that sad to imagine that maybe he just kind of wants to work with the actors and kind of chill in the video village and not really even do that hands-on German expressionist thing that he once did. That used to be the driving force, right?
So, with the Costner of it all, have you seen like what is this these like not Ryan Murphy? What's the guy's name? Like this
Oh, yes, the Yellowstone series,
yeah,
right?
yeah. What is yeah? I mean, again, I'm totally ignorant when it comes to TV. So, like, have you seen any of these things? Because that seems to be just all he's done for the past couple of years.
Right. Well, I watched the pilot for Yellowstone because at one time I was really interested in Taylor Sheridan, and it's funny because like a couple of the roles that stick out for Costner in the last 10 years or so. You know, he played Superman's dad. So that's what you do with that archetypal American male in the 2010s is that you just make him the father of a superhero. And then in Yellowstone, he kind of plays um, like a cynical comment on characters like this, or I mean he's like this patriarch, this badass, this cowboy, but like it's like the black-hearted version, like there's none of that like wide-eyed optimism, I would say, from like Field of Dreams or whatever, in the Yellowstone universe. It's this is what you got to do to keep a ranch is extort some people and throw a rattlesnake in their face, and it's not as fun as it sounds, trust me.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
There's a movie you got to check out where Kevin Costner plays a hitman who's been injected. I think he's been injected with like either a poison or like a virus
Oh
that'll kill
no,
him in
it's the classic like fucking
right.
like Jason Statham thing.
Yeah, but it's like, but it's Costner, and he's like, he's playing kind of like a gravelly voiced, like almost like a Liam Neeson type of older
Oh, when did
gentleman.
this come out?
It came out, I think, like in 20 like 14 or 15. And it was right around the time
Interesting.
Superman came out. Yeah, and it's
What is this
like
called?
I think it's like A Couple Days to Die or something like that, but it seems like it would be worth looking into.
Yeah, I'll definitely put that on my list. So, okay, like speaking of John Ford, there's like very much almost like a perverted idea of his cavalry films with this.
Mm.
I really didn't expect the film to go in this direction where like it's like got this evil army of racist fucks and like they have like a uniform, you know?
Yeah, I mean it's this is like the because this is a fairly long movie, and this I suppose is like the training section, or this is like the formative violent kiln that the hero must emerge out of. And so yeah, this is like because these this militia is going to go away for a little bit, and so this is really establishing just how ruthless they are, and like you know the kind of totalitarian mentality they have.
Have you ever played Fallout New Vegas?
No, I that's one of my big to-dos though, because I've got friends that swear by it.
Oh yeah, definitely, absolutely do that. I would not be surprised if they did not see this type of movie when they were
Hmm.
like constructing the Caesar's Legion faction from that game, which are kind of like these like it's like these like all these clans larping as like the Roman Empire in like a very like a neo-fascist way. And like they also like wear black and red primarily.
Yeah, I could see it. I mean, or they sound awfully similar. It is like it creepy revisiting this movie, and like it was just kind of like a corny movie at the time, but it's like unfortunately prescient in some ways.
Yeah, well, now we got these like fucking militias or whatever. It's a nightmare. So hold on. So this is like like the directing that Costner just did there, like the use of like the slow motion step frames. Can I tell you, like it just never looks good. Like I don't
No,
think
it
it's
sucks.
ever.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, like John Woo kind of makes it look okay in some of his movies, but outside of that, I just don't think it's ever been like good. And it's I just don't know why directors do it. And it feels like kind of an artifact from especially like the like a pre 2000s era of like directing where it's like, oh yeah, this is what you do, and it's like, no, this looks like shit. It's kind of like how like 80s movies all ended in like a freeze frame. Like it just feels like a stylistic archaic. Just I don't know, not not good, but it kind of makes me happy to see because it reminds me of like the era in which this was made.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Costner had watched Braveheart, and Mel Gibson was at his zenith around this time, and
Yes.
his use of slow motion exceptional. You know, like that's an area where I feel like Costner could have been better served by you
You know
know.
what? I feel like Mel also stole some of the Costner thunder. I feel like that happened
Yeah.
as a director. It's like, oh man, because
Well,
Braveheart is like I imagine it's like a movie very much made in the Dances with Wolves
mhm.
paradigm. See, like this is what reminds me of Caesar's Legion. It's because you have this idea of like, oh, like here's like this clan of barbarians who were all like pieces of shit. It's like terrible and awful, but like the leader is like, oh, but I'm a cultured guy, and I know all these things, and like I'm gonna apply these concepts, and but like fundamentally he just like misunderstands everything and
Yeah.
like actually has no context or anything. And like I like this idea that yeah, like here, like the salesman is the guy who's gonna teach us about Shakespeare and lead an army. Like it's like fuck this guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing a self-portrait, I believe, which is hilarious, you know, just putting little finishing touches on his own face there. And yeah, he's a copying machine salesman. And I love that line, you know, a wasted life, my wasted life. Can you imagine the magnitude of that? You know, can you imagine how boring the world would be if they didn't have my you know, monumental intellect towering over it? So there's the art of the deal, or there's Nathan Holmes seizing the way to win is what the kind of like manifesto is called, and it's
Yeah,
just the
what is
repackaging.
that?
Yeah.
What is that like Jordan Peterson one, like 12 Rules for Life or some shit?
Oh
Like
yeah,
I could definitely imagine that being like a manifesto in like the apocalypse, a bit like how to be an alpha Chad.
right. Um, just simple solutions for complex problems, right? It's just a retreat into like law of the jungle is a comfort, I suppose.
You know how I can tell this movie has like been lost to time is that when I went to rent it on YouTube, like the copy said like, oh, HD, and I'm like, okay, cool, HD version of the movie. And I fucking like I'm watching it right now. It's like the most like God, this is like a DVD from like 2000, just like
Oh, really?
the one that got uploaded. I'm just like, God damn it. You have the
Yeah.
Blu-ray though, right? Did you get that shit from Europe or whatever?
No, no. Luckily, I was just able to get on Amazon for pretty cheap.
Oh,
And
okay. I need to update
yeah,
this then. Update the Postman heads are fucking. They're thirsty. They're hungry. They want the HD.
it's funny. Liam O'Donnell, I think that's the filmmaker's name, who did Skylines, has been he's a really big Costner head, and he's been but nobody's talking about the Postman. I mean, that's kind of like that's the regressive offspring. You know, Waterworld's the one that everybody I feel like is going to have a
Well,
much better chance of
Waterworld was
revival.
like a fiasco. Like the Postman was kind of like it was like, is this gonna be like he's trying it again? And it became like okay, and it doesn't work. Like I could definitely see that.
Well, you know, it's funny. I have like a irrational protectiveness over
Oh,
movies
hold
like
on.
this.
Okay, see, like literally, look, it's she wore a yellow ribbon. Yeah, Costner knows what he's doing. Look, it's literally the fucking cavalry movie. Look at this.
Oh, and you're gonna love this shot. Look, they're gonna zoom into the screen, right?
What?
And then it turns into a shot from the movie. I
What?
like
Oh,
that
that's
part. Yeah.
crazy. Whoa, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I like his stupid little hat. It's like almost a beret. But it's probably based on, I mean, that's actually the costumes are, I'm not gonna shit on the costumes. They're interesting.
Yeah, you know what this has? Like a lot of late '90s movies have this problem. It's like this like touch of desaturation applied to everything.
Yeah.
Like there's not a great degree of color going on here. Um, fuck yeah, the I'm trying to think of other movies that have this, but there are some. Like this is the kind of the beginning of the era of like where color correction started like really fucking up movies and people just went wild with it, and then you get like all these movies that look like they're made by James Cameron because they're just coated in blue cobalt. I think of the like Jet Li's The One. It's like such a blue movie. Like, why is everything blue? It's just like, oh, why not? Because it's the future. But even the scenes set during the past are somehow blue still.
Well, it's funny. Like my dad always used to call this movie Dirt World, which I thought he
Dirt
came up with
World.
that. Yeah, but I guess that's what they called it on set too. And so it would there's a conscious. They were consciously trying to kind of like, and I think the desaturation could be a part of this. Make it make you feel like you are there, quote unquote, right? So just kind of like
Yeah, it's like you're
desaturate,
surrounded
muddy
by all
it.
these jerk offs. Yeah,
But yeah, I'm not a
there's
fan.
almost
Or I mean,
something
like,
like
yeah.
spaghetti westerny about it because those movies
Mhm.
are also like people forget about this, but like the Leone movies like are kind of like very grainy and kind of abrasive looking.
But man, like I loved in those particular movies just how greasy and sweaty and like, you know, everybody's
Well,
just a little bit
that
too
was the great
nice in this.
innovation, right? It's like
Yeah.
everyone like suddenly the West became a filthy place in those films.
As it should be in my opinion.
Yeah,
Gotta
I
be
don't mind
filthy.
it in older movies when it's a bit more cleaned up, but you know, mostly because I think it works better with a Technicolor.
Yeah.
The problem with those older color processes is that if you had any detail in any of the costuming, unless you were just again working in primary colors, a lot of that detail would just get lost. Like it would just become smoothed out and overwhelmed by the optical like way that you would shoot it because like it just would lower like the detail on the overall image, right? So it's like if you're a costume designer, you must be so pissed because like you would work on making something so intricate, and then you go to shoot it, and then none of that detail would show up.
I love that. Form follows function, right? 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah, yeah, just because you have to.
This stuff's always, I mean, I love whenever you get a rope bridge in a movie. I mean, let alone the lions. I mean, like
Oh
I
yeah,
wish more stuff like this happened. There's like flashes um of Mega, like when they have to go into the wilderness and ford a river to hunt a lion. That's pretty cool.
yeah. Anytime you have one of these very long rope bridges, I'm always suspect. I'm like, who's building this? How do these things actually get made? I don't
Mm.
understand how they get made. I really don't. That's like how. But I just watched Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This is very similar to that.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's one of my favorite cinematic rope bridges. And I assume UFOs. And answer your question.
Oh well, goddamn
Nobody,
UFOs
no,
setting up
nobody could
these.
tell me it wasn't.
Have you ever fallen into a body of water?
Not at a height. Well, actually, wait. I was in Hawaii like about 10 years ago, and there was a little hike that we went on which took us to kind of like a small waterfall and like a kind of a rock. We could climb up some rock, and somebody had tied like a rope there where you could like kind of swing down into the water. But I had like no upper body strength at the time, so I took multiple spills trying to swing like Tarzan over this body of water, and just at the second that the rope slacked, I just went tumbling off this.
Oh no.
But anyway, it was. I've done that. I've fallen. I don't know how high it was in the air, but pretty damn high. It hurts.
These motherfuckers who were just diving in after him. No, don't do that. Why don't you like find a way to walk down?
Yeah, that'd be preferable. It's
I
always
don't
funny
really,
too. Like,
I don't
yeah,
really understand this. Like, why don't they just like why are they like we need to get this one guy? It's like motherfucker, like don't you have all these other dudes? Like what? Why are they trying to kill him so bad? Like don't you not want to waste bullets?
right. And they're like, please send our worst snipers out there to shoot at
I
them.
know. Well,
People with the least.
I always think though, like in the post-apocalypse, like yeah, no one knows how to fucking shoot. Like if you find someone who knows how to shoot, it's like that's more dangerous than like all the jokers in the world because it's kind of like how like you have people who um like do like open carry or whatever, but you have
Mm,
to ask yourself, it's like yeah, how many of these people actually can like handle themselves? And the answer is probably like not too many, which is worse because it makes them dangerous. Where you're like, okay, you could actually just like shoot someone you don't intend to because you're just reckless and you just it's like you're walking around with a nuke in your pocket.
all right. Well, by definition, it seems like somebody who knows how to handle that kind of equipment, would not be they would not be using it in that way, right? Because
Well, yeah, it's like if you know what you're doing, then you know when where to do it.
right. Poor Giovanni.
Nah, I wouldn't be sorry to Giovanni Ribisi. Fuck this guy.
Right.
Oh, come on, man. Dude, this is such horseshit. Like the guy's like literally like kind of like the ultimate smug, like, hey everybody, the guys here. Stop. I hate that shit in movies where it's like you act like an asshole and like you get killed and you're like, why? Shut the fuck up.
Right.
Like you know why. You don't know why. There's no need to explain.
Man, just wait till you get to the end. There's like this agonizing, prolonged scene where like they're debating whether they should kill the bad guy or not. And it feels pretty definitive. Like, yeah, no, this guy needs to be let go.
Damn, this is some fucked up shit.
But man, doesn't that guy have a great like cackling evil face behind him? The
He does.
James
He's like,
Russo. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. See, I do like this thing with Costner where he's like, yeah, I would literally like to do anything else but stab you.
Yeah. Yeah, the character is he's kind of a wuss, and he's kind of a bullshitter, and it's really not until they do prolong it until like the last 10-15 minutes of the movie when he like goes full Costner mode and he's on the
Yeah,
back of
there
the
we go.
horse and
Yeah,
yeah.
fuck this guy. Oh no, fuck. Wow. Wow, this is some tragic shit right here.
But this is I'll go so far as to say this is a recurring theme in the movie is like the courage of giving yourself up versus the courage of every man for himself or the false courage of every man for himself and my it's my skin is more valuable than anybody else's. Like I think that's the secret strength of the people that these cavalry are rolling up on is that they know how to stick together and they're
Oh
very
god damn, what the fuck? Whoa, okay.
awesome,
I was
right?
not
Right?
expecting that. Wow. All right.
So you got to
Jesus.
be locked in now.
Jesus. Fucking lions. When was the last time in a movie that a lion ate someone? When did this happen? We don't have this anymore. Come on.
No,
It's
I know.
cool.
If it was probably John Favreau and it was like a CGI lion.
Oh no, you're right. Oh god. Can't tell you. Okay. no hate on the man, but like John Favreau should be tried for his war crimes. Like like when you look at it, you realize like he's at the center of everything that's wrong with everything. Like this fuck. I'm like, God damn it, you son of a bitch! Why would you do this to us? Like, if I just would, I want to go back in time and be like, don't direct this. Don't direct any of your movies. Just be a nice, funny man. Be an actor. Be in Shane Black films. All right, like do
Or Chef.
anything.
Chef was great. I enjoyed
Yeah,
Chef.
make Chef. Go ahead. Right. Just don't make Iron Man. Don't make the fucking Jungle Book or The Lion King or any of these other godforsaken remakes. Just don't do it.
See, I actually I would delineate between the Jungle Book and the Lion King because the Jungle Book still recognizes that it's a cartoon, and even though there's an absurd amount of detail in the digital creations, they're not dialing down like the expressiveness of of the animations to the point where you're just like why are we you're wondering why are we all here? Like why don't we just watch the original Lion King or watch Discovery Channel instead of this kind of like creepy, uncanny valley space in between. Whereas like the Jungle Book, I feel like had like a more of an operatic sense and kind of like a just
Well, listen,
visual
I'm
expressiveness.
not disagreeing with you here. What I basically mean is like the effects of those movies, I think, are worse than whatever qualities the movies may possess themselves.
Well, yeah, I mean they're so expensive too. That's the other thing you just can't help but take into account is like God, this is like they just turned their bank account upside down and emptied it out
Oh, the
for
mailman was a
this.
skeleton. Whoa.
Yeah, this is a great little vignette where he finds the postman uniform.
Dude, movies have just lost their skeletons. Put up more skeletons in your movies. They're so cool. Just anything. Like, I don't give a shit if like your movie's like, oh, it's a plucky Netflix romantic comedy. Throw a fucking skeleton in there, okay? I don't give a fuck. Just do it. Just do it. It's better.
Yeah, you could add a lot, I feel like. I was so sad when he lost all the Newports that he'd found. Like there's just one scene where he's got all the cartons of cigarettes, but no longer. Yeah, this seems like the Postman is kind of like let me do Waterworld again, but let me not you know kill 100 stuntmen, by having them jump off of the Exxon Valdez, and let's just like do it more, just as much like a Western as we possibly can, but incorporate some of the same themes and
Not have
genre ideas.
fucking people like doing ski jumps and, and sailing and having a mutant fishman.
Right. Impossible for me not to not kind of like for this not to tug my heartstrings a little bit. I mean, this is very much like a we live in a society movie. Like that's what the metaphor of the postman is about.
Well, of
Is like,
course.
yeah, is like, no, it's like it's not every man for himself. This is like some kind of vessel for us
I mean,
to
essentially every
reconnect.
post-apocalyptic movie is some
I guess
manner
you're
of
right.
like we live in a society kind of thing. I think it's you can't really get away from it.
Well, maybe that's why they're awesome, or that's one reason they're awesome, thematically anyway. It's always fascinating to me, like the contradiction between like the idea of America, or like what this movie thinks is the America that's been lost, and then functionally what America is. And the two couldn't be more different. But it's like the pursuit, the pursuit of like, yeah, what it could be, right? Is kind of like, even if it's like lived out 90s Kevin Costner, there's some of that energy behind it.
You know what? Like this like romanticization of the institution of the post office. It reminds me of the way that like centrist liberals will like say like, "Oh my god, journalists are the protectors of democracy," and all this. Like this is like
Yeah.
Costner's version of like it's sort of like his version of like the Post, you know?
Well, dude, I mean, like that. I'll take. I mean, the post office makes a better argument for itself than fucking like the
Oh,
newsroom.
miles. Yeah. Hey, at least the post office fucking does something.
Yeah. Oh my God, you know what I'm reminded of? Costner did a movie around this time called Swing Vote, where he's like in a red state somewhere, or maybe like in a purple state, and the plot of the movie was kind of like a Dave style like political satire, and he was like it all came down to one vote, and it's like this kind of like Joe the Plumber type guy who who gets to decide who becomes president, and yeah, that was like, so I mean that says everything, I feel like, right, about Kevin
Yeah,
Costner's
no, it's
politics, I
it's it's
suppose. Yeah.
real it's real classic stuff. The going boomer Cora. You know what? Costner was in fucking Silverado. I need to see Silverado because that seems
Ooh,
to be like a movie that's right up my alley.
I hear it's amazing. I mean, I've not watched it. Lawrence Kasdan, right?
Yes, the great.
Mm.
I feel like he never gets the credit that he deserves. Like no one ever talks about him as like one of the greats, but when you look at it, it's like kind of impeachable. Or sorry, unimpeachable. Like,
Yeah.
look, Lawrence Kasdan directs Body Heat,
Mm.
Silverado.
Well,
Wait,
he wrote Raiders, right? And Empire. It's like pretty much like the mythology, right, of those movies,
oh wait,
those
hold
Lucas
on. I
movies.
got I got him confused with Irving Kirshner. I
No, no, I think you're on. No,
got
no,
him confused, dude. I fucked up.
no,
He
no. I don't
directed
think you got
Wyatt Earp.
confused.
I forgot. Wow. Yeah, yeah.
Did you watch White Earp?
Yes, it's another interminably long, goddamn 3 hour, I think, long fucking Costner vehicle. Really, like a movie that he should have never have done. Like it just like when you compare that to Tombstone, like it's one of those where like you just eminently understand. Like okay, like we just we should have not endeavored because like it tries to make it into like this big wistful like vague statement on like an American life, and it just doesn't amount to anything. Like there's like no thesis statement. You just forgot to include it in your 3 hours.
Well, you know what fucked with me is that like I watched an interview with Michael Biehn the other day from Tombstone. He played Johnny Ringo, right? And he said that when he was asked about the director, because this guy named Jari was the original director of Tombstone, and then he was replaced by George P. Cosmatos mid partway through. And so Michael Biehn says, well, there really wasn't a director for Tombstone. Like it was all, it
Oh
was the most,
yeah,
so much disarray, and but it's just that fucked with me because Tombstone has so much vitality to it and so much,
it's
you
kind of
know,
a like a hard scrabble, incoherent movie. It's one of those movies where like it's like what's his name? Like Andrew Sarris would call it like he called like Casablanca like one of the best uh exceptions to the auteur theory. And I think
yes.
Tombstone is also one of these where it's like technically, I guess Kurt Russell was the auteur of that film, but not
Mm.
really. Like, but who knows? Like, who fucking knows? I mean, this is always the thing with Stallone that I always think about is that like Sly Stallone, he, it's very strongly suspected that like even like as far as like his early career, basically as soon as he started directing, there's several films that he like are credited to someone else, but that he basically ghost directed. And like I'm very confident that it's like Rambo 2, yeah, that was probably him. You know, Cobra, he definitely directed that shit. Like I just don't like observing his style, it's kind of impossible to conclude otherwise. And you know, it's when you just have these like actor directors again, it's like Costner, right? It's like he ended up directing like parts of Waterworld. It just happens. It inevitably happens.
Kind of beautiful, right? That it is a collaborative medium. I mean, auteur theory is fun and everything, and I mean, I'm not saying I completely disbelieve it, but uh, in the end, it's like it's a thousand moving pieces coming together,
Well, at the end of
and
the day, I must be honest with you. It's I suppose it's fine for Hollywood, but I would rather a director direct their movie. Um, I mean, and you know, just to maintain a consistent vision.
Mhm.
I'm always like kind of suspect when it's like, oh yeah, like the actor came in with some notes, and it's like, all right, you know, then we just include a bunch of random shit that doesn't make any sense, but you know, hey, he thought it was a good idea, so we got to listen to him. It's like, you know, like James Cameron, right? Like no one's gonna tell that son of a bitch, like you know, like Sam Worthington's not gonna be like, hey Jim, I had some notes on Jake Sully's characterization. Like he doesn't give a fuck. Like, you know, like I mean, maybe that's true, but like at the end of the day, like Big Jim is gonna be Big Jim, and like look, Costner's gonna be Costner, right? Like at this point, like when Costner's making the 3 hour version of the Postman, who the fuck is telling him what to do? Like he's just like purely expressing like id mode.
100%. I was thinking that like this is a trajectory similar to Harrison Ford in The Fugitive, where he starts off bearded and he gets clean shaven as he goes
Oh
along.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, I never really liked the Harrison Ford beard thing. Like I like the stubble, but like him with the beard, I don't know. He looks too
Yeah, it's
much
not as
like
good.
he looks like a 19th century like academic professor.
Right. Well, I mean, God, like I just I've kept a beard for, the last, I don't know, 5 to 7 years,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like
Some
that.
people can rock it. It looks good on you, but like
Thank
some
you.
actors, like again, it's just like with the full beard, it's hard because usually it's
Well,
fake, and I don't think it was fake in The Fugitive. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was, but I don't know. It seemed real enough.
I mean, God, if you're as handsome as Harrison Ford, like, don't obscure that shit. I mean, like, it's funny. Somebody posted clips from the Indiana Jones Chronicles, and Harrison Ford makes a brief appearance in that
Oh, that's
with the
right.
beard because he had the beard grown out for the fugitive. He needed to do that
Oh
like
yeah.
shaving scene. But
So
I'm
it
with you,
was
man.
real. Fuck yeah.
Funny the way that Costner dresses in these scenes where he's just kind of like at leisure in these different townships. I bet it's like exactly what he wears on his ranch in Aspen. Just go in Aspen mode. My mom had the biggest crush on Kevin Costner. She said I think she went to like a Santana concert at some point with my dad, and she was so excited because like Costner and his, girlfriend du jour was sitting like at the adjacent table, and I guess that's probably why it took me a while to appreciate Costner because I always thought he was like the dorky guy my mom thought was cute.
See, this is like the ultimate like libertarian brain shit. It's like, yeah, we've abolished parties. It's all about the individual. Although, paradoxically enough, like the post office is arguably like the most anti-libertarian institution to ever exist. Yeah, see, you were praising like the costumes, and like not to like denigrate the artists behind them for this movie, but there is like a touch of like genericism to the whole affair, which I think is almost on purpose. But like this isn't like Mad Max where there's almost like a BDSM like sportswear vision of the future. It's not really that. It's mostly just like people are just wearing whatever. It's just scraps and rags and everything's kind of dirty and shitty and like I I'm here for that, right? But like it's not like visually compelling really. Like I would appreciate like a little bit of color. I'm always suspicious of like these post-apocalyptic movies where you get into the future and then like I buy everything being dirty, but it's like fuck dude, people wear colors all the time. Like if you were in the future, like things wouldn't suddenly all end up like washed out and brown and gray. Like I never really it seems to me to be like a little bit of a aesthetic contrivance, like as anything is, right? But I don't know. Like I'm always like, all right, couldn't there be like one person in the post-apocalypse who's like, I'm gonna wear bright purple? Like, no, there's never that person for some reason.
Well, I think that the wholeness, the militia, there's a real strong governing philosophy. Of course, there is, right? And that the costumes and like the aesthetic is an outgrowth of that. And I feel like not as much time, and attention was spent on these different townships and kind of like what identity would they cobble together in the aftermath of, the world ending. And yeah, I mean, it's just coasting. There's just no way. There's no other way to read it. It's yeah, cobbled together.
See, this is like an interesting way to structure a movie like this, though, or like you begin with like the big villain scenes, and then you enter into like this more episodic space with what's going on here. Like most movies don't have this structure. Like most movies would begin with him like finding like the postman uniform, right? And then like going from
Exactly.
there.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I was reading that like the studios wanted Costner to cut it down, and he was adamant that
he was he was he was like, on my life, this will be 3 hours.
right, but like a more skillful way to go about it would just be like scenes like this. There's just it could be more lean. I think you could do the same movie,
Yeah.
and say what you need to say and have it be more lean, and I think it would have gone down a lot smoother then and now.
See, it's like I doubt that Kevin Costner is Oliver Stone. Like Oliver Stone's one of those guys where I think like all his movies could be longer and like you wouldn't necessarily have any loss of quality at all.
Mm.
And or at least like like what he's able to put in them, right? But it's like like JFK is already over 3 hours long. Am I really gonna be like, oh, I want less of JFK? Like, no, I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna be like, all right, fucking throw that shit onto there. It's like asking for less of Once Upon a Time in America. You just got to go with it.
Hmm.
But with this, I mean, like, how long was Waterworld? That was pretty long, right?
Yeah, I think Waterworld hung at around 2.5 hours. I think it was something like that.
Fuck,
2 hours
two
and
and a
20
half.
minutes.
See, it's funny though that we complain about that for like a '90s movie because like what is like the new Indiana Jones movie is like 2 hours 30, which is
Is it
absurd.
really?
Just yeah, it's like fuck, why? Like, I mean, maybe it'll be good, but like, why? Like, why is it
Really? You
Indiana
think
Jones
so?
movie? I don't. Okay, honestly, no, I don't think it'll be good.
It looks
But
terrible, honestly.
but I
Yeah.
like to be an optimist. Listen, I'm like the postman himself. I want to have hope for the future. Things are always getting better. That's what I want to believe. Okay, that's all that I have. It's my only illusion. Please, this uniform. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, movies. It's funny because like people talk about like no one wants to see a 3 hour movie. It's like, but movies on average have gotten very longer. Do you never really have movies that are like 90 minutes anymore? That doesn't happen unless it's like a kids movie. But even then, like the Pixar ones are pretty long, like longer than is usual for kids movies. And yeah, just I'm fine with a 3 hour movie. I just like I feel like most of the time, just no one has the power to actually pull the trigger. I mean, even like Ridley, what is it? He's fucking making his like Napoleon movie. Like it's like what, like 220? And I'm like, dude, it's Ridley. Come on, you're telling me he didn't make a 3 hour Napoleon movie? Is this that for real?
It should at least be as long as the last Transformers, is my opinion.
Yes. Which was wait, which Transformers? Wait, you're talking about the new one?
I guess. Oh no, not I. When I think Transformers, I'm just kind of ignoring like whatever happened since Michael Bay left.
As you should,
Yes,
good sir.
right.
No, you're thinking of the last night, which I think was
The
like
last
yeah,
night.
like 2:30 or something like that.
Something kind of admirable that like I mean that he wanted to stick around in the narrative about transforming robots for that long. Like he seemed
Well,
to really care about it.
well, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like apparently there was like an interview where Spielberg told Michael Bay like, yeah, maybe you shouldn't have made those last two Transformers movies, and like Michael Bay expressed some regret about it, but I'm glad that he did. They're fun.
It's such an amazing, incredible expense, and just like the manpower required to make a film like that, and it's almost like coming, approaching a president after the last two wars and being like, maybe you should have thought better of that,
He's like, well,
Michael.
maybe I should have. No. I mean, well, they got better over time, right? Like the best one is the last night. I'm sorry, like anyone,
Yeah, that's what I'm
like
told. Yeah.
like they like the first one's fine, second one's garbage, and then like Dark of the Moon afterwards, they're all pretty good. I don't
Hmm.
think there's it's just that Bay really eased into his own thing with them, and was not like too preoccupied with trying to make them something kind of Spielbergy. Like when you get to the
Hmm.
last night, it's just I don't know. It's almost like free associative writing, where whatever is in like whatever bubbles up from his subconscious is just what enters into the movie. So it's like, we got dinosaurs and a Suicide Squad montage and drones and a submarine and the Nazis, and like you're just like, okay, like anything can happen essentially. Like, there's just a bunch of fucking shit happening.
I gotta say, you're selling me pretty hard on those movies. Maybe I'll give
Oh,
them a revisit.
absolutely, absolutely. Come on,
Okay, so he says
they're
this
appointed
speech towards
rounds.
at the end of the movie. And I'd forgotten this is where he gets the speech is from like the plaque on the inside of the post office.
I mean, like this is like a very Fordian scene. Like this is like from like Young Mr. Lincoln or something.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's exactly what it seems like, down to the lighting. Lorenz Tate as Ford Lincoln Mercury, kind of like the second in command.
Oh yeah, I love like post-apocalypse movies where like people have names that are like named after artifacts or something, right?
Yeah, like an interzone, right? They take the branding.
Yes, yes. You know what? I think my favorite example of this was in the third Resident Evil movie, where you had a character whose name was Walmart, and they just kept calling her. It's like, how you doing, Walmart? And it's like, okay,
That's kind of perfect.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I hate to do commentaries on all those Resident Evil movies. I love them so much.
I haven't watched them. I mean, I think I've only seen clips from the first one. There's that epic shot of Mila Jovovich karate kicking the Doberman,
Yes,
which is etched into my
top 10
consciousness.
anime battles. Yeah,
Yeah.
rules. No, you should definitely see it. I think you'd like them. They're very, very short, very compact. They're kind of, again, they feel like it's like a Paul W.S. Henderson kind of playing in like this like John Carpenter genre world, and he incorporates a bunch of different things, and he's got a good eye for set pieces in them too.
Well, I mean, just like my vague sense of because I watched The Fifth Element like countless times when I was growing up, and like Mila Jovovich, she's like an icon. Like she's
Absolutely.
carved out her own space and as this kind of like action heroine, and like the idea of her having like a 4 or 5 film series and where she's the center of it, very appealing to me.
No, she rules. Yeah, I mean, like those movies all become like similar kind of to the Postman in this post-apocalyptic space. After the second one, they could become that because like everything just gets nuked and turned to a desert.
But they probably have some memory of the internet, though, unlike these people.
Um, what is it? The because what the movie comes out in like uh the apocalypse one is like 2007, I think. Resident Evil Extinction,
Uh-huh.
which is the one with Walmart. So I guess yeah, they do have an idea of the internet, but it's like internet circa 2007. So it's even before like Reddit and 4chan even become really a thing. Like they don't become what they're supposed to become. It's you don't even have maybe a Facebook, but like a very nascent form of it.
This character actor here, Daniel Von Bargen, he's just one of those faces, and
Von Bargain,
Von
yo.
Bargen. He was in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He was in Super
Von
Troopers.
Bargain is a great name. Hold on, wait.
It should be
He's
on
in
an Iron
wait,
Gate somewhere.
hold on. He's in Basic Instinct, Crimson Tide, Broken Arrow, G.I. Jane,
Yeah.
RoboCop 3. He's in Lord of Illusions. That's a great movie. Oh, he's in Rising Sun. Universal Soldier: The Return. Holy shit.
Sadly, he passed in 2015. But man, he's just one of those faces in a gallery of that you're always happy to see turn up. It gives a legitimacy to the Enterprise.
Yeah, I always like this kind of figure in mythology and in movies. You have there's almost this idea of like that a male man is like it's like that's like Hermes, like the god Hermes of like communication
Yes.
and the idea of like the male person dealing in communication is inherently involved in like kind of like this deceptive thing. Like you kind of, he goes from place to place. You don't really know where he comes from. It's like an itinerant, uh, like knight almost in a way. Um, and especially for like this era, right? It's like I don't want to see you in this town again. That kind of thing. Like there's an interesting aspect of that where it's like something that everyone depends on the idea of uh the information getting around, right? Like it's crucial, but at the same time you can never really trust the wandering person. um I think this is like a central idea of the whole like cowboy mythology, is that like there's or like with like the samurai stuff, right? With like Yojimbo, he just wanders from place to place, and like no one really wants him, but they also like can't exist without him.
It's one of those figures that I think I took for granted. It just kind of invisible to me. And from everything you just said, all of a sudden now I feel very sad because this movie is so juiceless, and there's so much you could do with that premise that you just outlined, or so much within that archetype. You know what I mean? There's just so many places you could take that. Now, okay, not knocking the Postman in the macro sense, I enjoy it, but you know, Yojimbo, I mean, come on, but like with the male,
Well,
that could be
look,
cool.
is it going to be too out of pocket to say that Kevin Costner is not Akira Kurosawa in terms of talent? I don't know.
Maybe not. Yeah, he tries. Now, Olivia Williams from Rushmore um, is fantastic in this, and she gets to do a little bit of action later. She can do the Sarah Connery thing pretty well, and I gotta say, just like in the scenes where she's called upon to, fall madly in love with Kevin Costner, and kind of like she has to both like think that he ain't shit for like a good portion of the movie, and then completely, flip around and fall head over heels for him. And she sells the shit out of that. I think she does a great job.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in too many things. Yeah, she has a really oddball career.
I just watched her in
Oh, she was in the.
Sabotage.
Yes, I was about to say the David Ayer masterpiece, Sabotage.
I really like Sabotage. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah, that
Or,
shit fucking
for
rules.
Ayer. Yeah. it's funny because End of Watch is one of the most evil movies I've ever seen, and then Sabotage is like the more truthful in a way, or it's like, it's like the other side of the coin for me in terms of like policing
Right.
apparatus.
Well, I mean, in a way, it's almost like similarly to like the Costner image, the tension between like portraying a certain either idealism or cynicism often like reveals something uh either like perniciously evil or like more true than if you had a less extreme perspective, right?
Hmm.
So like, it's like him making like this big fucking like post-apocalyptic epic about like a guy pretending to like be a postman, right? Like it's it's kind of like it reveals something I think about like the American tendency to like it's like people are looking for the the figure which will like essentially redeem America in like a post-industrial capacity, but the recourse, right, is to kind of combine the cowboy, right, and to make it into like almost like the idea of like mailing as an act of I don't know, like rebellion quasi, but you see what I'm saying, like the
Yeah.
idea like this is like the real daring do, rain or sleep or shine, the mail will get there, like is like making that into a romantic image, I think is like a very American thing.
Yeah, it seems like maybe it could happen other places, but here, yeah, it's unmistakably American
Well, I mean,
attitude.
I don't think it's like bad to like, yeah, male people are cool, I guess, but like the idea like trying to make it into like this is what will save society, like there's always this like American culture wants the new redeemer. It wants the new Christ to show up, and the new Christ is often like a figure of uh rebellion or transit or violence, and um
Yeah, save us the
I
trouble of having to do it ourselves, yeah, or having to figure it out ourselves. Yeah.
right, it's like, yeah, like the guy will just come around and then he'll give everything you need, and yeah, I mean, in a way, like again, like exploring that tension in this type of movie, I think is both, it reveals the limitations of that kind of thing, but I think it's also productive in that it reveals like a desire there to try and like move beyond like the meager circumstances that everyone's frustrated with.
Hmm.
I like his postman hat here. Like I don't think male people really have like cool hats anymore. I've never seen them. Like in my entire life, I've never seen a male person with a cool hat.
Well, since you bring that up, like as like as a prop or like as a focal like costume piece, you got to get the right hat, and I can tell that they spent some time trying to find like almost like a cowboyish silhouette to it.
Well,
It has to
it's
be.
like
Yeah.
it's like that. It's also like a Union soldier's hat. It's got like the blue shading to it.
Right, and like it's got like the tin of a badge, for like the US Post Office. Like
Yes.
yeah. That was a very funny sex scene, by the way, where like they had two rounds. They went 2 rounds and it was lit by candlelight. And Costner's gotta make that as sensual as possible.
Yeah, this scene reminds me of something that I heard someone say in a podcast recently, where they were describing like what is like Steven Spielberg's central talent as a director, and someone said like it's to take like the most maudlin cliche bullshit and to make it like seem okay, and to make it seem like not only okay but like artistically valid. And like Costner staging like this, like he's like getting sent off, and like they're singing the fucking like the
Yeah.
national anthem, and like it's supportive of him, right? And like this idea of like the anthem of American faith, and like there goes the man to save civilization. Like these very romantic sweeping notions, and I'm not gonna say it entirely works here in the way that it would work for Spielberg, but that comment came to mind. I thought it was very insightful. And honestly, that kind of thing is hard as fuck to do. It's hard to sell sentimentality, I think.
Well, right, because it's a
To
bad idea. Yeah, you shouldn't
well,
try and sell
well,
that. Or
well, well, oh, definitely. Okay, like not always a good idea, definitely. But I would just say, like, abstracted from any political consequences of that,
yeah,
like, just artistically, it's hard to sell. Like, it's hard to sell a faith and naivete and like quote unquote simpleness or in romance. Like that's why there's no. It's why like the rom com became a genre, because you couldn't just have a romance. It had to be like comedic, had to be ironic, right? Like like the idea of a romance had to be, you couldn't just fall like madly in love with someone. It had to be this kind of like this give and take where we're kind of joking about the idea of falling in love, and then we get around to actually doing it. And like, no knock on that genre of movies or whatever. Like, there are many good ones, but I think it's kind of indicative of a certain attitude that people have, where it, I don't know, like I don't know if it's modern or whatever, but as far as I've experienced it, it's this like very suspicion of any display of earnestness. And
hmm
um I don't know, I on one hand I'm here for like cynical, depraved, like really ugly movies, but I do essentially like have a soft spot for movies that are just like they just own being earnest and maudlin and dorky. And I think Costner has been in plenty of them. I think very clearly he's making one here,
yeah,
and I
he's
think
the
that's
guy.
okay. And I think that's totally fine. And like, I don't think everything has to be like a Quentin Tarantino quip fest. Like, it doesn't have to be that. It's all right to make something that's like, all right, whatever. Like, like we can make fun of like the politics of this movie, but I don't make fun of the desire to like want to believe in something. I always try to separate the impulse from like the necessary like expression of it, because I think it's always like I think people always want the right things, but it's just you find it like the right or the wrong avenue in which to express them with. And I think so much of the like the goodness and the essential, like I would say good natured, like attitude of, if we just want to talk about America, right? Like the average person, like I think wants good things. And I think they just have like literally no understanding or education to really express that kind of shit. And so, is that their fault? No, but it's like, it's always good to like, I think, be about like, earnestness is important, but it's also important to be knowledgeable about like like what is the right way to go about like being earnest and what you think. Because I think if you had this idea of like, all right, well, let's not believe in anything and tear everything down, like you have nothing to replace it with, you have nothing better to replace it with. It's like, okay, you're kind of almost doing a worse thing, because you're essentially like leaving people vulnerable to believe in anything.
Well, right. I mean, in the movie, this movie knows enough to correctly point out that the Bethlehem is bullshit, and that that the building of something is inherently has more value than the tearing of it down, and that you know, remaining divided and is just not the recipe for anything good or lasting or functioning. Now this part is I like this part because in a scene a couple of scenes ago, there was this nice little moment between Olivia Williams and her husband. They are infertile, or they've been having trouble having a child, and so Olivia Williams sleeps with the postman to get knocked up, so that her and her husband, could have this baby together. And in this scene here, Bethlehem, is making eyes at Olivia Williams, and makes a play at her husband. He's like, well, this is prima nocta, and me and your wife are gonna, we're gonna have our little moment here, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And instead, the husband makes a stand, and it's he's a very toxically positive male here.
Yeah, have you ever experienced a similar situation?
No,
Or Kevin
but
Costner, you know,
oh
like
man, yeah, that would be tough. I mean, a real piece of man like that. But I love, that when Will Patton, General Bethlehem, kills this guy here, not only does it just send this ripple, through the town, and I mean, I think even in like a feudal system like this, you're ruling through the threat of violence. You need to kind of keep the locals on your side to some extent, or there needs to be stability. And he kills this guy, and it really fucks with everything. But I think I love that in this moment, the man who is killed has more courage than the man who kills him, because you know he knows he's going to take a knife in the gut, but he sticks to
well,
his
yeah,
principles anyway.
it does, yeah, like I may have to die from whatever knife, but it doesn't mean that I have to like it. It doesn't mean that I have to just like passively accept it.
Yeah, I mean it's a real courageous moment here. Good dude. Too bad.
Is he wearing like it's like Bethlehem like wearing like an ascot or something? What is this?
It's like a little leather, yeah, like a little leather choker or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I don't know.
so stupid, which is in character.
He does kind of have like I don't know, like almost like a medieval like leather bit of armor. Reminds me of
Yeah, he's just
some like in D&D when you would have like it's like yeah I'm playing a rogue and like I buy leather armor and like it kind of looks like that like there's some like vague uh like BDSM quality to it where it's like all like belts and buckles and things.
well, I mean that's part of what I like so much about this character is just like he's resolutely uncool, like he's not yoked at all. He's got kind of like some
Yeah, I
thinning
think
hair on top.
I think we've had like this whole era of like trying to make every single villain either like cool or quippy or like have like some inherent trauma that like makes them like redeemable or something. Not that like all those things are never like good, like they obviously are, but I think there's like been almost this idea like in like a post mass therapy world where like the idea of like actual evil is impossible and like evil actions are just like oh it's just like all like misinformed and it's like on one hand like yeah I do agree with that. On the other hand though like there are fucking scumbags and I think to like reduce the idea of evil acts just being like but he's just traumatized or whatever, it's like yeah so is everyone else and like that they aren't doing that shit right like like not everyone's fucking drone striking civilians so like I think there's only so much that we can excuse on like individual trauma before we have to start critiquing the system that produces these things. And it's like yeah like this guy setting up whatever he does after the apocalypse, you're like yeah there's just no way to excuse this fucking behavior. He just
No,
sucks.
yeah, I mean, and like there's no trauma that he's trying to resolve through his behavior. It's more of like he can't
Well,
conceive
it's
of a way to
opportunistic.
distinguish. Yeah, he can't conceive of a way to distinguish himself other than just to like to dominate everybody else. You know, it's
Well,
an
yeah,
anti.
I
Yeah,
can't be like I'm not able to not be mediocre unless everyone else is below me, which is like the kind of small thinking that like every tyrant has, where like I suck, but I have to make everyone else like suck more before I feel better about myself, which you never do.
yeah, that's very well said. The last movie I saw Will Patton in was Minari. He has a small role, and he's very good. He's always
And
very
he's
good.
still working.
Yeah, I love that film. I've only seen it the once, but good stuff. I really don't like Daniel von Bargen's coat there as like the mayor of Postal Town.
I see like the way that shot was set up, like that's like a good like John Ford like long take,
Great blocking.
like like Costner's got some moves. Like I'm not like totally invigorated by the direction, but like he knows how to like he's competent. Like he's competent in a way that like modern directors like he doesn't cut really when he has to. Um like he extends stuff. He knows what he wants to do. I think that there's somewhat of a vision here that like just I don't know what it makes this like feel not just like yet another disposable like post-apocalyptic movie. Like there's some style here.
Yeah, I don't know how hyperbolic I should be these days because clearly there's a lot of talented people robustly creating, and there are good films, and we see as many movies as you can every year. But the medium does seem like it's devolving, like somehow. I mean, like I was comparing the boondoggle of our era, The Flash, to like the boondoggle of this era, and it's just
See though,
yeah.
I would even say with that movie though, like the problem isn't even that it's not like not directed, but that it's made in the industrial capacity in which it's made just is not conducive towards like any like expression of talent which would give rise to like a good version of that story, right? Like it's like in no universe would the way that movie looks be acceptable. And ideally, you would have someone who has like more of a passion for that kind of idea and that crazy. I mean, look, like Snyder knew how to stage that like Gonzo CGI stuff. He knows how to make it look good,
Yeah, I
and
mean, he did it well, I thought.
it's just that when you get someone who's like basically forced to be like, all right, well, you're the person on hand, and so like you have to contrive some way to do this in your style, and it's like it ends up being like again like a round peg to a square hole, and you don't really get a good result. So even if you have someone like in that movie like Andy Muschietti, it's like the guy clearly like he likes wide angle lenses. He likes to do kind of like these like silly one takes. He knows something, right? Like he's trying, but it's just like the conception of the movie is inherently flawed, and it just should not exist. And like ideally in a better system, he could have just been like, okay, well, I have an idea for an original thing, like why don't I just make that and then let someone who wants to adapt something adapt it. And I think it's kind of in that capacity where even if the desire to make something good is there, it's often misapplied.
Yeah,
But there's also just a lot of shitty directors who just get it because it's a job they lucked into.
well,
Like,
I
oh,
admit,
I directed 20 episodes of TV and now I'm making a movie, and it's like, all right, you have no fucking skill, dude.
which seems to be the model, right, these days.
Well, yeah, because those guys are easy to control.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why would I, as a producer, right, as a studio executive, yeah, well, why do I want someone who's gonna, I mean, look, like Kevin Costner is a good example of this. Like the guy is an actor who quote unquote, not outlived his usefulness, but like he he pushed in a way that actors don't usually push, right? Like, yeah, it's like, okay, well, I want it this way, and I want it specifically this, and this is the type of movie that I make, and this is what I think works, and this is how I direct, and I want this to be this way, and whether good or bad, right? That's definitely a choice that gets made. That's not under the control, and it's only because he was such a big star that he was able to get away with it for a time, and it's like the ultimate version of this is again like Clint Eastwood, where like basically no one tells them what to do, and um, yeah, it's just one of those where you feel as if whether it's an actor or a director, you don't you know you don't want them thinking for themselves, right? You want them to show up and do what you want them to do if you're a producer, and that's just inherently at odds with art, and like that's why Hollywood will always be a flawed system. But it was marginally less flawed once upon a time. But
Mm.
like what you could ask for is that it maybe is like less bad in the near future after a collapse, perhaps a collapse in the 2013 of the Postman. That's
Of
what
the
we should have had. Yeah, it's like, can you imagine like the because you were talking about like they don't have the internet here. This is also like a future where they weren't burdened by the cultural stagnation of franchise movies and Marvel movies.
They had it pretty good, huh?
Yeah, they didn't get to
Uh,
see the Peter Jackson Hobbit trilogy. What lucky souls!
I recently rewatched The Mask of Zorro with and Stuart Wilson. He had a performance as the rich bad guy in that one that I had thought was kind of mundane in the early days when I was a kid when I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
But as an adult
And you
revisiting
watch it
it,
now, and you're like, "Holy shit, Martin Campbell, baby, we're zooming.
yeah,
It's
it
great."
was incredible. But like I love that when Bethlehem re-meets the postman here. I mean, of course, he shaved the beard, but like a guy like this, he has just like he's just doesn't have like, as keen of an eye as he'd like everyone to believe, and he's always most focused on his own reflection. So it makes sense to me that like the same dude would be standing in front of him just a few months
Yeah,
later, and he wouldn't
exactly.
recognize him at all. Yeah.
Because it's like there's an idea and there's a theme there that's getting expressed through the visuals.
This action scene's good. I think this is one of my favorite little, little spates of action. We'll wait for Olivia Williams to pick up the
Dude, that,
M4.
that motherfucker about to shoot him, like that guy looked like a fucking alien. Like I don't know
Yeah,
who that guy was,
it looks.
like Agent 47 or something. This is unreal.
Yeah, this is badass. She just starts gunning at everyone.
Hey, got to. I also like the emphasis here on like they're not just like unloading like da 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 da. It's like all the rifles are in single shot because it's like, yeah, why would you?
Yeah,
You wouldn't just be fucking like dumping ammo everywhere.
yeah, limited amount. I mean, I don't know how they get their shell casings and everything.
Yeah, see, like the way that Costner stages this stuff, it's so old school. Like that, like there's none of like
Yeah,
the
look at
the
this.
frills of like action filmmaking that would happen in the '90s. Like this is so. It feels like I don't know, like maybe like late '60s at the most. The way that he like frames everything here, like it's so. Uh, it's a lot more stiff, but I think in an enjoyable way. I don't mind it at all. Like, look at this. Like when you have like the slow mo of like the horses coming out. Like he's staging things with depth. He's got like a sense of momentum in what he's doing. It's he's such a student, I think, of like classical filmmaking, and like to a good degree and a bad degree. But like anything else, again I enjoy it because it's something that you just don't see ever.
Well, I mean, it's the pendulum swings back and forth. This was is very much a movie where on nearly everything was done in camera, and then after this, for a bunch of years, they got away from that, broadly speaking. And I just lately, always, I've loved how Tarantino is adamant about doing everything in camera,
Oh
and
yeah, I know he's great at this stuff.
yeah, and then, you know, it's we
I mean,
miss
he's
movies like
also a guy with like such a conservative retrograde style. Like he'll never move beyond anything that he ever does. Like he's still like his entire career has been like trying to like imitate Brian De Palma and Howard Hawks, and he's never going to get away from that.
Oh yeah, it'll be malpractice if he doesn't return and do another Kill Bill. I mean, that's just me. I feel like he's. I know this is going to be his last one, quote
Yeah.
unquote, but he's got to do Volume 3.
No, I think the biggest problem with him is like it's like dude, just beat me with a rock, yo, let's go. I love when
Yeah.
that happens in movies. That rules. It's so cool. But I was watching uh it must have been one of the Indiana Joneses that I saw where like it's like yeah, he just grabs a rock and like knocks someone over with it. It's like that's great. Like there's nothing better. Like it's such a caveman thing, right? I'm just gonna like pick up big thing and hit you with it until you stop moving.
Right, that's what it's about. It's about bringing reducing people to their most primal selves. That was in Indiana Jones, though. I need to rewatch that. I
I
forgot
think
the.
so. Maybe it was something else. I don't know. It must have been. Because I feel like
That's,
there's like it's like it's supposed to be like a dirty trick that he does or something. Because I know he throws sand in someone's eyes in one of the movies.
oh man, yeah, you're reminding me now. Like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, like I love that movie's got so many little moments. Like remember when the Nazi starts punching Indy in the shoulder that he just got shot in?
Yes,
I
that,
just
that
little
stuff's great. That's an all timer.
Yeah, and of course, yeah, when he throws the sand in the guy's eyes before the propeller hits him in the face. But yeah, just all those little vicious action beats.
Oh wait, no.
So
It
cool.
wasn't Indiana Jones. It was Jack Reacher. Cruise does that in like the
Oh
final action
yeah.
sequence. He just like because they catch him without his gun, and he just like because they're in a rock quarry, right? So he just picks up a
Yes.
rock and just fucking ganks the dude.
Well, Jack Reacher has one of the best like hand-to-hand combat beats ever, which is he grabs a guy's unconscious head and then beats another guy's head with it.
So good. I love that, dude. Jack Reacher, fucking. I got to do a commentary on that. I've seen that movie so many times. It's just so unbelievably satisfying.
It's the best. I didn't really care for the second one, unfortunately, but the first one is
Yeah, I never seen
kicks
it, but
ass. Yeah.
again, it's not McHugh, so who cares? What's his name? It's your boy from Last Samurai,
Oh,
uh,
Edward Zwick.
Eddie Zwick. Yep,
Yeah.
the Blood Diamond himself.
There's a great moment though where Reacher smashes through the window of a car with a salt shaker.
Oh yeah, wait,
It was in all the
what?
commercials. Yeah,
Yo, that's okay. I gotta see it now. I gotta see it.
yeah. Don't skip, but
So, so we never like we're about halfway through this movie. Can I tell you? I'm feeling the length. I'm feeling it.
yeah, it's
And
this.
I
Yeah,
want to ask you, like, at this midpoint in the journey of our lives, in the 3 hours of watching The Postman, like, what made you? Because like you requested this, so you were like, "Let's watch this, Huey," and I'm like, "Okay, cool." Like, I'm down for it, right? I'm here for it, but I have to ask why. I don't think I understood why, really.
well, I just have such a weird and like kind of sporadic relationship with
But
the
yeah,
Western, and I know you love Westerns.
what is your story with this movie though? Like what is like it was I like you said you watched this a lot of times as a kid, I think. Did you say that?
Okay, well, in all honesty, okay, I mentioned my mom's crush on Kevin Costner, and we had a VHS of this, and I believe it may have even been one of those dual VHS collections. Like, you know, Titanic was so long they had to spread it onto two tapes. And so I think like when I would get sick and have to stay home from school, we only had a limited amount of VHSs, so the Postman was in the rotation. And I always knew it was I never completely liked it, but it's kind of like one of those old toys that like, it's etched into my memory from an early age and and of course there's a bit of like they don't make them like this anymore like as
Well,
sort of
it's
like
like as a
yeah,
kid, you don't know what's good or bad. You're just like being exposed to things for the first time.
but I could tell this wasn't as cool as Waterworld, that's for sure.
Right, right, right. So hold on. Did your mom have JFK?
No, she didn't have any of the cool she didn't have
Oh
Untouchables. I had to find
no.
that later. Yeah.
Oh no. Dude, I would have loved to watch JFK as a kid. That would have fucking poisoned my brain more than it already is poisoned.
That would have been amazing though if like the extent of my mom's attraction to Kevin Costner's that she'd be like willing to. I mean, it's like a 3 hour epic using every film stock and editing style known to man,
Yeah,
just to
every,
get
every
a
every coked up Oliver Stone bit of insanity.
yeah, just to get a little bit of Jim Garrison in there.
You know, I was talking about this with oh wait, no, wait, hold on. We were just talking about this. God, my memory's so bad. So we were just talking about like actors who look good with beards and who don't. Like, so Costner definitely, I think he can rock the beard. He can rock the facial hair. And in fact, even in Wyatt Earp, he looks pretty good with it. Um,
Yeah, agreed.
so like who now do you think could use like the bearding, right? And like consistent
Hmm.
bearding? Because I feel like as soon as The Rock stopped using uh like the beard that he had in like the Fast and Furious movies, I think his face just became like he just looks like a walnut or something. Like it's just he looks like there's like just some like amorphous quality to his head. Like he doesn't really have a strong chin either, so like he just looks like a fucking like again like it's just so it's just strange to see him like those Jumanji movies. He just it's like a
Yeah.
cartoon character or something. He's like too smooth and I'm like, yeah, man, can you fucking rock that little like goatee weird beard that you had? Um, and like Gyllenhaal, right? He's got a pretty good one. I like him with facial hair. It looks great.
Uh, oh
Like
yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
who else is on your mind when you think about this? And it doesn't even have to be like new actors, but just any kind, I guess.
You know who's got a great beard and beard face is Javier Bardem. He's
Oh
gone
yeah,
clean shaven more often than not. He's got such a good chin, but like I just think of him in like Collateral, or like there was another movie that he did around the time that Before Night Falls came out when he was first coming onto the scene, and I mean the beard adds a lot of years to him. It's kind of like when Ray Liotta rocked a beard in those a couple of those roles, and it just transformed his profile in kind of like a profound way. And yeah, so if any good roles come up where he needs to kind of like do a hard pivot, I think Beard could be a good choice.
did Benicio del Toro ever have a role where he had a beard?
Ah, well, in the Sicario films, I believe
Did he?
Alejandro, yeah, has a beard, and it looks great. So you count him in as well.
Okay, okay.
And I like those movies. I hope they make a third one. I know that Taylor Sheridan, we were just talking about him, is in a little bit of heat right now because of some anti-union stuff he said in an interview.
Which surprises no one.
Of course, right? But I thought Sicario 2 was it was inferior, obviously, to the first, but it's
Dude.
clearly a middle chapter. They got to wrap that shit up.
Yeah, they do, I guess, man. The Soldado. He had his day.
It's I another one of my favorite critics was writing about Sicario 2, and he's just like, I feel guilty for even watching a movie like this right now. It's very problematic to say the least.
Yes,
But
it's a very mean movie. I need to rewatch it again because I kind of liked it, like, and I kind of didn't. Maybe I need to sit on it some more. You know what's a movie that I feel like that with? It's from my boy. It's from Ridley. Like like I know Black Hawk Down is an evil movie. Like I know, like
oh, terrible. Yeah.
there's no real like apology for it, but it's so beautifully made. It's like
I couldn't agree more.
it's like Ridley doing Tony Scott, but like, and I love Tony, but it's kind of like was Ridley actually better at this than his brother was? Like, there's some parts of it where you're like, this is so fucking dynamite. All of it looks good, and like the fact that it's so chaotically made is kind of even more of a wonder that it looks as good as it does. And you just see so many movies like that now, which like have ripped off Black Hawk Down. They just look like total shit. And so it's like, man, Ridley, he just hits different. Yeah, the kind of movies like yeah, like Sicario 2, or even the first Sicario, or Black Hawk Down, where you're like, yeah, I know technically this is like a monstrous piece of like reactionary bullshit, but there's something to it. You
Yeah.
just gotta go with it.
Well, I mean, at least Sicario, it seemed partially conscious of how
Well,
monstrous
Sicario
these
has like this
archetypes
kind
are.
of
Yeah.
like this like, oh, but we're gonna. It has like a consciousness of like self hatred towards the whole thing, even if it does ultimately, I think, come across like a reactionary movie.
I was gonna say to your point about how beautifully made Black Hawk Down is, I love the sequence where they're like covered in dust and gunpowder, and they're just like in slow motion, running through the night or running through like the early dawn out of Mogadishu, and they've got kind of like that mournful music playing, and like it ends very strong. Like it's a
Yes, I
movie
mean,
that's almost constant
I,
combat, but
I mean, it's kind of like insane that like I don't understand why no one's ever made a movie like that again, because basically like he's got like maybe like 15 to 20 minutes of setup, so you just know what's going on, who these characters are, kind of like Aliens in a way. And
yeah.
then the rest of it is just like a constant fucking barrage of like of action. And you're thinking like, man, what outside of like Jim Cameron, like no other movies really do this. Like it's just so intense. Like seeing it in a theater, I can't even imagine, because it's so loud and it's so fucking cacophonous and just it's nuts. Like this movie, like look, like the scene, like stuff we're watching right now, it's very quiet, very nice and pastoral outside of the fire. But you know what I mean, like, but
Right.
there's like Costner's interested in like the natural world. He's interested in poeticism and beauty,
Mhm.
and like in Black Hawk Down, like none of that is the case. It's just like just get to put through the fucking the buzz saw of gunfire.
Yeah, it's like a zombie movie, or it becomes one,
Oh my god,
and
yeah. Well,
yeah,
it's kind of almost like an old school like siege movie, like Assault on Precinct 13, but taken to a ridiculous extreme.
which
There
is
was a
so
movie
funny.
that
Yeah.
came out a couple years ago called The Outpost. Have you seen this?
No, what is it?
It's I forget who directed it, but it's actually like a good movie. It's kind of like Black Hawk Down core, but it's a siege movie where you have these American soldiers, I think in Iraq, and they're just like they're have you ever played like the first Halo?
Yeah, I love the first Halo.
Okay, you know Blood Gulch, like how it's
Yes.
just like two bases in like a box canyon, and the boxes are on all the sides.
See, that's beautiful level design, because I close my eyes, I can remember
Yeah,
the
you,
whole
you know
thing.
what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
so in the Outpost, that's literally what it is. Like, it's like the idea is like their base is in the middle of like this valley, and they have like it's like the worst tactical position ever. And apparently, it's based on a real story. And so, like, half of the movie is just them like, looking around and being like, "We have no defensive position here." Like, it's and like so, like when they do get attacked, like basically it just becomes like, all right, like they're coming from like every single direction. Like they're looking down on us from above the ridge, and like there's just no safety, and it's this complete clusterfuck. It's like really pretty well directed at like just like a technical formal level, and like it's got some good character stuff too. I would recommend. I think you would like it definitely.
Sounds like my jam, and it's a Western, you say, or is it like kind of a period piece? Or
No. It's a movie that's like it's modern day. It's like set in
ah,
Afghanistan or Iraq, and like
okay.
it's like you have like yeah, like they're on like a base. It's like a real. Like, it's based on a real story apparently. Like it's like these guys were just stuck in the middle of this box canyon and like somehow survived like this like huge raid where they were just taking pot shots and like the base is getting invaded. And what's cool is that the movie takes a lot of time to set up the physicality of the base so that when the base does get invaded, you know where everything's at, and you're like, oh, here's the armor depot, and here's where the vehicle is. You know what I mean? Like you have it's like a video game where you know where shit is at, and so it's like kind of cool watching them try to navigate this whole facility and like be like, oh, they blocked off this part, we need to get over here. Like it's got those tactile pleasures that I enjoy.
Well, I'm all over it. I'll definitely check that out. A more intimate action setup is definitely my jam.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, that's what I would try to do if I made one of those things. I would just be like, all right, we're just going to take a location and we're
Hmm.
just going to exploit the hell out of it. Because I think like zombie movies do that so successfully, and there's no reason why you can't do it with action because it's been done before. John Carpenter did it.
Hmm.
Fucking Power
That's the
Hawks did
gold
it. You could just
standard.
do it.
Well, now we see that the Postal Service has expanded. That through his little accident or improvisation, he's there's a whole fleet of postal workers now.
Yeah, see, I like that kind of stuff where it's like something that starts in like an incident and some bullshit like amounts to like some actual like good almost
Hmm.
through like sheer luck.
Yeah, I wish that, what one missed opportunity of the movie, I think, is like they're still trying to vest all this energy into the flag when like the flag is just another improvisation. Like, why return to it?
Well, yeah, I mean that's you know, again, if you or I were making this, I think we would like have like it
A
would be
little
cool to have
different.
a
Yeah.
it'd be cool to have a scene where it's like it's like all right, they it's like this was once a flag and like we will have our own and like this kind of thing or like something like that, like have it have a more intelligence behind it, I suppose. But
Hmm.
like I think the basic idea is like again with this kind of stuff, I always commend and support the earnestness of it because I think it's like something someone could do something with this idea in like a really vigorous capacity, perhaps even in the future. Maybe you'll write a script that's like one of my main influences was Kevin Costner in The Postman.
The the Postman Reloaded. I've already
That's right.
titled it.
No, The Postman resent.
Or the
Wait,
Postmen,
the,
plural.
the Postman. That's right. It's about the collective. Oh man, so like his Costner's AD for this was Alexander Witt, who was like one of like Hollywood's biggest assistant directors. And like if you look at
Huh.
the movies that he's done, it's like insane, a crazy list. His most recent one they did was Fast X,
Man, that's such
and
I
he
love that
also
bit of lore.
directed the second Resident Evil movie.
Wow, okay. I mean, like I have some familiarity with the with ADs, and I've got a couple friends that do it, and I did it for like a very no budget indie movie years ago, but those are like the type A personalities that, I mean, really like corralling all of this raw matter into, marshaling a force basically. It's so on a movie like this, first AD is like might be one of the most important people on set, if not
Oh
the
yeah.
most important.
Well, especially like when your star is also the director, like yeah, that's really important.
Yeah, he's going to be occupied a lot of the time. Oh, also the DP. Now I forget. It's not Dean
Wait,
Semler because Dean
no,
Semler shot The
it's yeah. I was about
Waterworld.
to look at it. Yeah, DP'd by Stephen F. Winden. For
Okay.
anyone listening, Also DP'd basically all the Justin Lin Fast and Furious movies and also Fast X.
This
He
guy?
did. Yeah, this is like Justin Lin's guy. He did Star Trek
Whoa.
Beyond, House of Wax, Deep Blue Sea, G.I. Joe Retaliation, the Steven Seagal movie The Patriot.
Oh yeah, that
Let's
one. That one's
see.
kind of like the Postman for Steven
Yeah,
Seagal, I think. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. The Jackie Chan's The Tuxedo. Um, Sonic the Hedgehog, the original. And how can we forget 2022's greatest movie, Ryan Gosling's ultimate achievement, The Gray Man?
God, like the most infamous mediocre film ever made.
Yeah, Netflix deserves to be tried for war crimes for that shit.
You know, I was
I'll,
just
I'll
talking to somebody
forgive
about
Ryan
that.
Gosling, but everyone else has to, has to be sent to a
Yeah.
re-education camp.
I like the big action set piece in that one on the train. I forget, like I only saw it the once. I think most of us have to remember that movie, but I remember that there was a lot
I don't
of
remember it at all. All I remember
yeah,
is what is his name? Chris Evans being a ham
yeah,
because
yeah,
he's
being
always a
very
ham.
annoying. Yeah. Now this is kind of a weird subplot of the movie. I couldn't make head or tails of it. This is a non-vet that the postman comes across, and he's like a radio operator. Like I think his function in the movie is that he figures out how to intercept radio communications for the brief section of the film that's coming up where they're running like a guerrilla warfare against the Holnists. But yeah, just kind of a this character is introduced with a lot of fanfare and just kind of like fades.
Look at all of his reactions, be like, okay.
um, oh, this is very. I thought this scene was funny. It's like him, you know, he's kind of big time now, and so he's making a pass at her. He's gonna see if she'll bunk up with him, and then she blows him off, and he's like, I guess what they say about the uniform isn't true, huh? He just has this little like aside to himself. It's very funny.
Man, some of these wides are nuts.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What a shitty painting.
I
Isn't
know.
that
I was
terrible?
about to say his paintings are god awful.
But are they as bad
It's
as
like it's
Hitler's?
like the kind of paintings that you get in, like a hotel.
Not even that, like more like a Carl's Jr.
Well, the thing is, like, what people don't understand about like Hitler's paintings, and like, I realize like what I just said is like the start of like many an infamous downfall. No, but like they're awful, like absolutely. But it's like fucking Hitler's paintings are like not only awful but also like totally outdated by the time that he starts. Like they're not even like expressions of like, oh my god, he was just trying to express himself. It's like, dude, his shit is like the most generic academic art. Like you watch that, like there's not an ounce of personality in those paintings. Like if fuck, they suck. Like they're just so bad. Like there's just no like, here's my take. Especially like what, like the 1920s when he was doing that. It's like art had totally moved on beyond like the goddamn like the French academic painting that was dominant in the 19th century, and he was still painting like that shit because he didn't know any better. Like it's like even in the realm of like where you'd be like, oh, but were they really that bad? It's like, dude, they were not only bad, they were just like boring and stupid. like no
Yeah,
one was painting like that at that time.
yeah, that's an important component we can't miss in our post mortem.
Because it couldn't even be like, well, it's not your taste. It's like it was no one's taste. Like even back then, everyone was like, yeah, yeah. The reason why I failed as a painter is because not because like, oh my god, he was too sensitive for this earth. It's like no, because he was like painting in
Kind
a
of the opposite,
style
actually.
that
Yeah,
was not even like archaic, but also actively like reactionary. Like it's like the only person who would paint like that was like a person who's like, "Ugh, I hate modern art." I mean, that's the thing that like fascists always talk about is that, like they like, oh my god, the modern art is so degenerate. Like, dude, it's like, dude, you wouldn't fucking know taste if it bit you in the ass. No, I love this shot here where like they all split up and go different directions. That's a great sequence.
Yeah, yeah, that great sequence. And then this is the scene that I laugh at a lot. Everybody laughed at the time. We revisit it in like the closing seconds of the movie. Um, Roger Ebert panned it in a very funny paragraph of his review of this. This is where like he uses his like is his postman sense to like sense that the kid's behind him with the letter.
Wait, what? Oh no. Oh, they really doing this? Oh man.
Incredible.
It's classic corny shit. It's like, wait a second. So what I don't really understand about this apocalypse is like what actually got destroyed. Because everything seems to like nature looks great, like you got people building stuff. There's still buildings lying around. Like it just like the only thing that seemed to affect anything is like I don't know, like people just wear worse clothes. People just dress like medieval peasants.
Yeah, I mean, it's just there wasn't as much coherence to kind of like the world building of it. There was a great like VO line they put in the beginning, and of course we see the line that like nature, and we saw a bit of this right in early COVID, where like the less people around, the more nature sort of flourished, and there's the seed of an idea here, but they don't really expand on it too much. So good.
Yeah, good job on the focus puller for getting that.
They really take their time with it too. They want us to know how profound it
Well,
is.
look, it doesn't happen unless it exists in slow motion. Yeah, that's another thing that's like, I'm not going to say it's like a trend because people still use it today, obviously, but like in the 90s, like just everything had to be slow mo. Everything. Like even things that didn't have to be like, you watch like Battlefield Earth from this era, just like so many fucking unnecessary slow motion sequences. It's like a dude just like falls or like he like moves his hand and suddenly it's in like step frames. And you're like, why? Stop.
That's on my to-do list, Battlefield Earth. That was from around this era that I gotta watch it. I mean, it's the Scientology's
No, my
first
lord.
and
Yeah.
last epic.
Well, I mean, as card carrying Scientologists, I think that it's up to us to really praise that movie in every way that we can.
So funny they named it Scientology. Now there's a location that we're kind of edging towards that I think it might actually be the satellite dish from GoldenEye, or it might be like around where they shot that. It looks
Oh,
so similar.
really? Yeah,
Yeah.
it might be. Can you imagine like the the modern version of this? They'd be like, "We need the man who will repair your Wi-Fi router," and like he goes around like
Right.
a Geek Squad van or something.
Yeah, the Comcast guy is rather than the Postman.
I need you to remember my password for me.
And this is one of those movies that like it makes you wish that there were Ewoks. Ewoks could
He
really add
walks.
something.
I feel like Kevin Costner saw that Return of the Jedi and he was like, "Oh, something here." Yeah, how do you feel about Ewoks, by the way?
I don't know, man. Like
That's a
I,
great icebreaker question, by the way.
yeah.
Just go just say go up to some random person. How do you feel about Ewoks?
Well, like I just feel like as I rewatched all those movies recently, and
Yeah, how'd that go?
it undermines like the empire as being this omnipotent threat that I feel like for the movies to really gel, you need to kind of like you need the heroes need to be imperiled, and like when you deploy when the guerrilla force you deploy against them are like these little teddy bears, that like would just be completely to a person would be totally murked by the Empire in that last battle on Endor. Like it just kind of it takes some of the I think like the gas out of the climax to
Yeah,
as opposed to like if
I
they
feel like they
used
should have gone with the original idea, just having them be
Wookiees,
like,
right?
yeah, that would have been more than fine. Also, because kids like Wookiees. Like, I don't understand this. Like, we need to like, oh my god, you know, kids wouldn't like him unless it was Ewoks. It's like, dude, people love Chewbacca.
Yeah, I mean, there are movies for kids. I guess I've come around on that. Really, is that like that? I've just kind of grown out of it.
Oh
Um,
yeah, no, I
maybe
totally given up on that stuff.
Yeah, maybe Lucas was right all along, that like, hey, it's the kids' movies.
Yeah, that's watching real adult movies now, like The Postman and Jack Reacher.
So this is like a little bit of Paul Revere stuff going on. I think they intercut this
Oh
guy.
yeah, yeah, I didn't even think about that. You're right. Like, you know what, Pat? You know what I'm thinking?
But
Like, this is like his like music video sequence.
John Bon Jovi a little bit.
This is like him doing his version of MTV.
Maybe.
Like so many
Dances with
movies
Wolves.
around this time had that.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say Dances with Wolves, pretty awesome. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it. I mean, I should probably like
Hey,
withhold
I'm
judgment on
down for
that.
like what is it, like a goddamn 4 hour western? I'm here for it. I want to see it.
Yeah.
It's just it's hard to make the time.
She can't resist the Costner.
Yeah, well, I definitely can, but I just feel I don't know. I just like seeing westerns.
Yeah.
Do you feel like Costner's gonna be in any movies in the future?
Well, I mean, he's announced that he's directing like a potentially a trilogy, but at least more than one film, a western epic, basically. Like he's gonna take another stab at doing like a
Damn,
big analog movie
he
like this.
never he never gives up, man. He's just like, no, let's do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I love the grind or the passion for this genre, and I have no idea how it's going to turn out. I'm kind of glad that he's departing Yellowstone to make some honest to God movies. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Man, I love his Pa Kent. When it was announced that he was like as excited as I
Oh,
was when they
I mean,
announced Michael
frankly,
Caine was Alfred.
I think he's the best part about that movie.
Yeah, I mean it's like I feel like the bad faith reading of that movie when it came out. Like there was this clip they played in all the trailers where Clark is like, "You're saying I should have just let those kids die," and then Kevin Costner's like, "Maybe." And then there was all these like thing pieces online about like
What?
this Superman hates saving people. But I thought the writing was surprisingly sophisticated, and the portrayal is like no, these are like the two fathers, the different counterpoints to like the Superman myth, and
No,
you
I
know,
mean, like, look, listen, having Kevin Costner is essentially being like the dad,
amazing.
person. Like, it's like, yeah, that's about as good as casting as you want to get. Like back in the day, like it's kind of like they kind of flubbed that on the original Superman movie, and they really did it right in Man of Steel. And like, yeah, it's one of those things where like there's so many parts about Man of Steel that I wish, like, I'm like, this could be like legit. just a
Hmm.
masterpiece. And then like all the Nolanist stuff and the David S. Goyer stuff and like the military stuff happens, and I just totally lose interest. It's kind of like what happens at BVS as well. Like as soon as you start, like we're just uh, at the end, and we're just like fucking like Doomsday or whatever is it Doomsday or is it a pot? No, it's not
Oh,
Apocalypse.
it's
It's
Doomsday. Yeah,
Tuesday.
yeah.
As soon as like he's just bouncing around buildings and like blowing up shit, I'm just like, all right, this is just a boring like CGI punch up. You know, it's just nonsense. And like that's kind of what Man of Steel becomes, where it's just like, all right, we're like DBZ exploding buildings and helicopters are flying around. Like okay, like whereas like
But
okay,
see,
like
at least
watching a movie like this, it's like say what you will about this movie, but there's like a clarity of action, a clarity of purpose here. It never gets really overwhelmed by itself or what it's doing, and like there's a unity going on here that like you can decry, but it's not like it doesn't abandon itself at any point, at least not yet.
right. Well, you're gonna love this part. This is when the postman just completely demolished these militia
Oh
guys
wait,
here.
what? Oh shit!
Not your daddy's postman. Yeah, this part was awesome.
Yeah, see, the way that like Costner stages this stuff, he's not reinventing the wheel. He just like understands basic film grammar and just executes and goes for it. And I appreciate it because yeah, God knows I would just ask for anything vaguely similar to that now.
I love that there was a moment we just saw where a guy takes a spill off of a parapet and does this like, flip as
So,
he sails through the air into the water. And it's funny, I watched a featurette recently about the making of this scene in The Northman, where like a guy gets hit by an arrow, a stunt guy gets hit by an arrow and has to like fall off of a boat into the water. And they made the guy redo it a bunch of times because he wanted to add like extra flips and like it's beautiful how these stuntmen can like make themselves fall and like they don't just fall, but they like fall in these very particular ways with like a theatrical flourish that we just
it's
we're
fun.
all yeah, it's fun. Why not, right? That was unnecessary.
You see with like these fucking like the step frames, like it's such a '90s thing. No one does that anymore.
I think that's for the best.
Yeah, it truly is. Again, like there are some things when you watch like a certain era film where you're like, yeah, there's some things we gotta return back to. There's some things we just need to leave buried in their tombs.
Hmm. Well, from the Lord of the Rings, and many, many films, I just love that helicopter shot. I mean, I guess
Oh
drones
yeah.
have supplanted that.
But the helicopters always look better though. Like the Tony Scott helicopter shots, those look incredible. Drones can't do that. Also, drones have like I don't know. There's like a flatness of the effect. I hate
Hmm.
it in movies now when like they're like this scene takes place in Europe, and then like they just have like, well, it should be more specific. Like this scene takes place in Paris, and like they have a drone shot of the Eiffel Tower, and it just looks so cheap and disgusting. Like you're like, come on, man. Like I could have gotten that. I could go over there and get that shot. Like fuck you. Like you didn't. Like there's like no sense of place. Like you're not like to me. I would rather be like, oh, this scene takes place in Paris, and you have like an establishing shot of like I don't know, like a cafe or like anything, right? Like anything but the generic like postcard Google Earth idea of what a cityscape is. It's so boring. I can't stand it.
Well, right, because like the extreme high angle shot, right? It's the helicopter. It's like omniscience. It's like, a god's eye view of what's going on. And if it's, the
Well, it's just
drone is
impersonal.
kind of,
It's what you're
yeah,
being sold when you're like they're advertising, like come visit our city. Like it's an advertisement. It sucks.
yeah, 100%. It's the part where he's like, we got to stop being postmen now. It's too dangerous. Oh, yeah, now this is one of my favorite, just corny lines from the movies. Like, did I ever tell you how I got to be a postman?
Dude.
Amazing.
Okay. Yeah. A little bit too much for me, but God bless him, just keep doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, this stuff's great. One missed opportunity in this film is they don't deliver a package which, then explodes. They don't
Oh
put
my
like
God. He doesn't dude, that would be the most obvious thing in the world to do. Can you
it'd
imagine how cool that would be?
be amazing. Or I mean even better, like a giant package gets delivered like in Batman Returns and then all the postmen spring out of it. Or like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Dude, they spring out, they go da 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 da. You know, just start shooting everyone. That'd be awesome. See, that's a remake. We got to remake this, and it'll be two
yeah.
hours, and we'll just
Yeah,
playing
it'll be
soccer
2 hours.
nonstop.
That's a selling point. Oh, this is a great bit of mega acting here.
Whenever I see these kinds of like scenes of like rape and pillaging, like my mind is always like this. These are like the Conan Barbarian scenes, like the opening of that movie, where you're just
Oh
like, all
yeah.
right, shit's going down. People are just fucking getting rousted and destroyed.
Yeah, a lot of like emphasis on the backgrounds. Takes like 10 guys to hold him down.
Yeah, 'cause he's Costner, right?
Right. You know what's interesting is they don't give him a name. I mean, he's just the postman, which seems impractical. I mean, I appreciate the kind of like, that
Well, I
he's
think it's
kind of a
them trying to
Clint.
do like kind of like a quasi fairy tale thing.
Yeah, I suppose. But I mean, and of course, Bethlehem calls him Shakespeare, but he's the only one to kind of use a shorthand with the postman.
Can you imagine like he's credited as like Kevin Costner as William Shakespeare?
But that'd be
Who is
something.
who played William Shakespeare in that film that Roland Emmerich made? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, unknown, right? That's what it's called. Unknown, I
No,
believe.
no, it's not unknown. That's the Liam Neeson movie.
No, no, no. But I think it was. Well, okay, it wasn't called unknown, but it
No,
was like.
it's not unknown.
But I know what you're talking about, though. It's the one where it's like Shakespeare didn't really write. Macbeth or whatever, right?
I
It's
feel like there's not been enough like fictionalized portrayals of Shakespeare. Like we have all like the fake Nixons, right? We got a lot of like fictional Nixons, but we don't have a lot of bards that are just played by actors. At least not that I've seen.
I love the that the year that Saving Private Ryan was supposed to win Best Picture, Shakespeare in Love won instead.
Oh, that's a big one, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the year after this.
Ride, postman, you hear me? I said ride. It's a really good dejected face. But you can see how, like, I mean, this movie is it's 3 hours long, but like these beats, I mean, could really just be constricted, down to, I mean, the movie could be essentially the same, just kind of more propulsive.
Yeah, I frankly I just think like you shift some stuff around the beginning. I think the beginning is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I respect that they felt they needed to kind of give him this epic origin, or like, they needed to chart this period where he was aimless and he didn't have any like real organizing principle and yada yada yada. But
Not even that. I just think the structure. I think the structure is wrong. Like I don't think you begin with like him being imprisoned by the bad guys or whatever. I think you just have him like find the uniform and then have the bad guys show up later.
yeah, well, exactly. That's a good point because a big like kind of plot point coming up is that he's got the eight, from the rules of eight, seared into his shoulder, and it would have been, probably more interesting, right? To start with him finding the uniform, and we only come to realize later that he once rode with this militia, and he's got some kind of like
Yes.
personal connection. Yeah,
You know what? That's a good point. I didn't think of that. You're right. That is good.
just give us something to a little bit of surprise, right?
Yeah, because as of right now, like it feels very like a little bit too calculated, and there's not that much. Like he's supposed to be like a mysterious, like you said, a man with no name, but we don't have that mystery with him.
It was his character in Waterworld, I think, was a lot more interesting because he was more of a mean bastard. Like he did all kinds of like, I mean, he really kind of tried to it cut against his Costner, what you would expect from a Costner character in a lot of ways. This is more, true to form, I guess. The president of this is Richard Starkey, which was Ringo Starr's actual name, I guess. There's a couple moments where he just makes some bullshit up in the moment
Wait, his
that
name
turns out.
wasn't Ringo Starr? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, Richard Starkey. It's kind of like how what is it? Bob Dylan is Robert Zimmerman, right?
That's not true. I don't believe you. I think you're making some shit up right here.
No, no. I'm pretty sure.
You're always lying to me, Patrick. I hate you for it.
Yeah. Telling tales.
Telling tales like this postman. Okay, can I think I've talked about this on like a podcast before or whatever, but I like truly am sick of like the contrived like pre third act downturn that so many.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the false. What is it called? Like the false dawn or something like that, right? Where like all hope is lost, and then the hero pulls out a Hail Mary towards the end, and everything changes. Yeah, it's been done. I'll say that much.
it's like it's okay if it's a cliche or whatever. I just don't like this whole thing where it's like, oh man, we're all frustrated with each other and we don't like what we're doing. Like the whole like dejected thing. I'm like, you know what though? Like I never buy it. I'm always like, you know what? If people do something, they got to be committed to what they're doing. Like otherwise, why am I watching it? Like this whole thing of like, oh my god, the postman, it was all a lie, it wasn't real. It's like, dude, you guys went on and did it. It's like,
Right.
why throw it away now? Like it's just you're being dumb to do it. Like it just feels like it's a very much like a contrived dramatic structure that I think writers think is good, but it's actually just boring. Like like Shakespeare's plays don't have that shit, right? It's like it's a thing that's designed for like screenplays, and it's just lame. I'm like, like if I made this kind of movie, I would just have it be like, okay, they have like a setback, and then instead of being like, oh, let's give up, it's like that's lame. Have it be like, no, we're gonna rally and like, yeah, maybe have a speech or whatever. But don't. I hate this like fake bullshit. We're like, we're gonna give up. Like, stop. It's lame. Like, it's just maybe I'm kind of I don't know. This is like the Howard Hawks part in me coming out. I just don't feel like, look, if you're a professional about it, you're gonna do it. Like it's like these
Yeah.
guys are postmen. They're not gonna give up. Like they know it. We as the audience know it. So why like do this rigmarole where we pretend to have it happen?
Well, to me, yeah, the natural progression seems to be like they do have this clarity of purpose, and more and more people are flocking to their ranks, and they know what they've got to do. The challenge then is like how to build that force to a level where it can overwhelm, the entrenched opposition. It's more of an external bad guy than like internal dissent, right? Or discord that would be the thing that the postmen need to overcome.
Yeah, just
So
have it
yeah, I
be
get
like,
it.
all right, for like the first time, like they have to face something real. And
Yeah,
it's like, like maybe he gives a speech where, he says like it's like, listen, I gotta be honest, like I'm just, a nobody from nowhere, this kind of thing. I made it all up, but what we made here is real. And so like we have to like now that we're here, we have to defend it because like this is important to people. Like something you could do it right. Like it's very elegant, and I don't really understand why it's not done. And I feel like it's just clunky writing, and
yeah, that's what it
it's
is.
again it's an adherence to like this structure at the expense of all else. I think people think that it's good, and it's not good. It just is lame.
You know what's funny about that too is that the credited writers for this are Eric Roth and Brian
Who are
Helgeland,
like good writers, like
amazing
they're not
writers, some of
bad.
the best. Yeah. So, but they're coasting. I mean, it's
It feels like that's what I, like Costner wants that moment, and so he's probably like, "All right, we got to have it be here." Especially
right.
because like I really doubt that that's in the short story because the short story probably doesn't have the time for that moment.
Well, when Cruise says things, Tom Cruise says things on the campaign trail, like the audience. I make these movies for the audience, and you know, that's who I imagine myself as when I'm at the helm of these big films and whatnot. I feel like somehow the way that he's managed to engineer it, especially lately, it's like the best case scenario of that. But this is sort of like the worst case scenario, or that this aspect of the narrative, right? Where like we need to give we need to give people something that they're going to expect rather than we're gonna go beyond the expectation and just kind of give
Yeah,
us
well,
yeah.
it's your kind of you're creating like a patronized formula of what story structure theoretically is, and it just doesn't have to be that. And if you're a little bit more original, you could get away with a whole lot. Like look, but you mentioned Cruise. We're talking about like Top Gun Maverick, right? There, like you have the second act downturn in that movie where what is it like one of the like two of the pilots get injured or something, right? And then Kilmer dies, right? And you have this moment where it's like oh shit, like like oh my god, like what's going on? But there's none of this like literally that whole scene is already done before Kilmer dies. Like the whole thing of like the come to Jesus moment for Maverick, he already does it, right? And so it
Yeah,
just
the real
becomes
heavy
like
lifting is already done. Yeah.
yeah, it becomes like a, all right, well now we need to steel ourselves and like resolve ourselves for what's about to happen, right? It's like it's it is that moment, but it's not done with this like type of drama that I hate. Especially what I hate is like team movies where everyone's like, oh, we're all a team, and then it's like, oh, time for us to all break apart, and it's like this is just narrative fluff. Like it doesn't do anything. Again, I never buy it. I'm like, why? We're here to see you guys do what you got to do, right? Like, why are we gonna go through this thing where we pretend that that's not what we're here for, right? It just doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense to me. It'd be like in like a Fast and Furious movie where like something bad happens and all those guys were like, well, time to give up. Like that doesn't happen. They don't do that. Like
Right.
they never do that.
Yeah, maybe we don't care about family that much.
Yeah, right. Like how stupid would that be? Like they know they cannot
A
do that.
family was never real.
Oh my god. Okay, that's the cliche thing that always gets said in these moments. It was never real. It's like who gives a fuck, dude? Like you made it real. Like just go with it.
You know what's
Yeah.
funny is that there were like no beards for a while in Hollywood movies, like after this, and then there were beards everywhere.
Yeah,
Like
now everyone
I
has a
think this,
beard.
yeah, yeah. But I think I don't know. This movie was kind of like so uncool at the time that this could have helped in kind of like the beard abolishment,
The beard abolition.
the beard abolition.
Yo, what the hell is this? Is this like Hoover Dam?
Okay, now yeah, here's the GoldenEye dish, and
Oh
maybe I mean
yeah,
yeah,
no, yeah, you're right. Whoa. Yeah, it's a cool looking place. This is like a fucking like a Tomb Raider level or something.
yeah, I really dig this, and everybody always talks about it, and rightly so, that we're gonna meet the mayor of I gotta make sure I get this right. Okay, it's this set is called Bridge City, or this location, and the mayor of Bridge City is Tom Petty playing himself.
What? Oh my god, what? Playing himself? Dude, 90s movies were crazy. 90s movies
Yeah,
are nuts.
I bet this is literally just because I think Kevin Costner, I mean, was in a band as well, like or is in a band like Russell
Of
Crowe
course he
is.
is.
Yeah, yeah. And so I mean, I can imagine him and Tom Petty were just chilling a lot, and he's like, "Well, let me just how
Can
about
you imagine like going to a concert where it's it's the Kevin Costner band, it's the Russell Crowe band, and it's also the Steven Seagal band.
oh, and the Keanu Reeves band, or because he was the bassist
Does
for the
he
band, right?
have? Oh my
Yeah,
god,
yeah.
dude, you have that. What a concert that would be.
That'd be yeah. They should do it if
So
Tom Cruise
look
was
at this
ever.
bit with the waterfall. Like, look, this is how
Yeah,
you compose interesting shots, right? It's like you're having a conversation. Let's frame it in a good way. Like it's just again meat and potatoes material that gets so overlooked, and also like the locale really helps.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate like a post-apocalyptic thriller with some like verdant, like it's not the natural world isn't completely eviscerated.
Well, again, what makes this great is that it's not all green screen to hell and back. You actually see, like, oh my God, real people in a real place. Like
Yeah,
that's where you spend the $80 million is you get these places and you dress them up and they look good. Although there's
yeah,
something like with all these fishnets, like this does kind of feel like a holdover from Waterworld.
right. They just brought some of those over. Yeah.
Do you think Costner was like, I haven't exercised the Waterworld shit. I just need to bring it back a little bit. Doesn't he have like gills in that movie?
Yeah, he has gills behind his ears. That's how he's able to go under deep into the deep ocean
Can you
and
imagine like if you breathed behind your ears, how strange that would be?
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I think just that little bit of gross body horror is just one of the little nuances I think that
Well,
prevented that movie from.
that's the Kevin Costner auteurist touch. That's how you know it's him.
Yeah.
He's literally wet behind the ears. Oh,
Oh shit! Never thought of that. So strange to make Tom Petty this character, but hey, I'll roll with it.
yeah. I'll say this, like, again, not hating the movie really. I'm just kind of like, I'm experiencing it, man. Like this movie's like not Costner's like finest hour of acting.
And you've seen Wyatt Earp, so like
Oh
you've
yeah. Well, so much of
yeah.
this movie is just him like blankly staring at things.
Is this better or worse than Wyatt Earp?
Well, we're almost at the end. I guess I could kind of judge. Fuck.
Sounds like a draw to me.
What? Okay, what did I give Wyatt Earp? I don't remember.
Well,
I think I
Michael
get.
Michael Madsen's in it though, like right. I mean, I was stoked when I heard Michael Madsen's. Doesn't he play Doc
Yeah,
Holliday or something?
well, he plays one of those characters. Yeah, it's a good cast. I mean, this doesn't have a bad cast either. I would. Okay, look, if I had to choose, I guess I would stick with Wyatt Earp, but it's also a clunky movie.
Are there good gunfights in it, or like are there any kind of like singular moments that stand out, or is it all just
I
kind of
mean, kind of, but like it's again, it's not like when you watch like Tombstone, like those are like some like action movie gunfights. Like it's good stuff. We watch
yeah?
Wyatt Earp, like they're kind of like it's even like they're it's that weird nebulous point where like they're clunky enough to be of the 90s, but they're not simple enough to actually evoke the John Ford westerns that you would want, right? Because those shootouts are always very simple. Like it's never
Hmm.
like this over fussy stuff. But because it's wider, because the 90s, they're just cutting too much, and so it's like shot, cut, 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 and it's like you get all these reactions, then the whole geography just kind of gets blown to smithereens. I mean, it's not terrible. I've seen worse, but yeah, it's just one of those movies that just doesn't work on a basic level because it has nothing to unify it. There's like because you can't be like, oh well, it's a so-so movie, but it's got good action. Like you can't say that. It's just yeah.
Hmm. Well, that's a shame. I think that you will enjoy this sequence coming up. Oh, I just want to point out her performance here. It's wonderful. Like she really, I mean, it's kind of a nothing part in some ways, but like she really it's this transformation she goes through from like kind of loving her dead husband and resenting this guy for being the one she's stuck with to kind of going all in on her romance with him. And I just think it's important to recognize these moments where like it's really the actor is responsible for bridging that gulf. But anyway, the cable car is like there's a little special effects sequence that's coming up that just kind of comes out of nowhere. I think the movie could have used more of this kind of thing, to be honest. But we at least we get this little bit here.
I mean, it's been very grounded so far, so I can't imagine that was a priority. Also, maybe he was like kind of being like, all right, we already did some crazy special effects stuff with Waterworld.
This is for like the two water world stands in the audience that need a little something extra.
Yeah, I okay. Like I know people are like Showgirls is actually a masterpiece now. Are there people who are like Waterworld? It's
It's coming.
underrated. Like it's okay. If you watch listen to this commentary, if you actually like Waterworld, like please leave a comment or like message me on Twitter and explain why. Because I genuinely am curious. I want to know. Because I don't think it's good, but I'm like in a way I almost want to. I want to believe. Like okay, I also feel this way about like Treasure Island too. Like these like '90s movies that were huge
Ooh,
bombs.
yeah.
If
Oh,
anyone likes
Cutthroat Island.
Treasure, yeah, Cutthroat Island. if that movie has fans and defenders, yeah, like speak up. Tell me what I'm missing because I want to enjoy it because it's pirates. I like pirates. It's got Gina Davis in it. I want to like it.
Yeah, I never watched that. I mean, I
You know what? That should be our next commentary. We should just like be
yeah.
like, all right, only we're only talking about '90s bombs.
Well, it's just a fascinating, like snapshot of like, I mean, it's the type of blockbuster that can only be made then.
Well, it's also like Rennie Harlan, kind of at the
Oh
apex of his
yeah, yeah.
career.
Yeah, I just watched Cliffhanger recently. Great movie.
Oh, love that.
And Die Hard 2. I mean, Rennie Harlan is kind of like
He's good.
he's
I mean, like
yeah.
he's not good, but he could be good. Die Hard 2. I mean, I know people disagree, but it's kind of like the second best Die Hard movie. It's better than the third one, I think.
Rennie Harlan also did that movie 12 Rounds with I think it's one of the first John Cena starring vehicles, like action vehicles.
Oh, how was that?
Pretty funny. It's just John Cena like commandeering different vehicles, and it's like it's basically Die Hard with a Vengeance, but with John Cena and Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Yeah, check this out.
Yo, let's go. We zooming.
This kind of reminds me a little bit of Escape from L.A.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna be doing something with that in like about a month or so. I'm so excited. I love that movie.
Oh, I'm stoked. Yeah, me too.
Another '90s bomb, which I would definitely say like is undeservedly hated. It's good. Like I'll fight anyone who like if you hate Escape from LA, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Like it's just you're straight up wrong.
Well, I love that movie, and I was reminded recently that Stacy Keach is in it as like the guy who I forget his title exactly, but he's like the government functionary that sends Snake on his mission, and just talk about palpably evil vibes. Like Stacy
Yeah.
Keach is so good at playing a bastard, kind of like Powers
What?
Booth.
Yeah. Well, him and Cliff Robertson, they're just so palpably disgusting in that movie.
Yeah. So this is like the Braveheart moment, where I mean they're not wearing blue face paint, but they could just as easily be.
Do you think Costner was like, "Oh, thank God that Mel Gibson turned out to be a racist piece of shit"? Like, do you think he was like, "Yes, like my legacy wasn't totally stolen away from me"?
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's like he's got the much nicer human being thing going for him.
Yes. I haven't seen Braveheart since I was in high school. I don't because I remember liking it, but man, like I wonder if it's kind of like one of those Beck's picture winners that just doesn't look good anymore.
Well, I think that you're safe there. I mean,
Okay, you think it looks
it's a
good? Okay.
great. Oh yeah, yeah. It's just like it's just so weird because it's like it's one of those like the cute people think that like William Wallace in Braveheart is like an avatar for them. And like
Damn.
it's one of those malleable kind of like metaphors that like it
Well, of
means
course, yeah. I
everything and
mean
nothing.
that's why Americans love it.
Yeah. But yeah, Mel Gibson is just a very super competent action filmmaker, I think.
Yeah. I love him so much in Signs. What a beautiful movie that is. It just
That
like
is a beautiful movie.
what I hate about Mel Gibson is that like he's too good for his own personality. Like he's
Hmm.
been in too many good movies for his racist ass to actually be in.
That's so well put. There's a movie direct to video film called Bloodfather that he was in semi recently that I just love. Recommend it to everyone.
Just Patrick just checking out Bloodfather, giving us a scoop.
You know, very AA, that movie. I appreciate it. Morale is a dangerous thing. Do you recognize that actor who's on Bethlehem's Flank?
Oh, he kind of looks like Stallone.
Yeah, he's got a great look. Just that kind of like, you know, looks like somebody hit him with a shovel in his youth. I was gonna say too, the binocular POV, we may be through with those, but I love the little you could tell there was something in camera. They like put like a
Yes.
smoky lens in front of it or something, and yeah, it looks cool.
Yeah, they're one of those things that was like cool when like Fritz Lang did it, and then like that was like the 1940s, and like now it's just been like like it is done well, it is, but yeah, has become like almost like a video gamey shorthand.
Yeah. Okay, so when I had this movie on tape in when I was a little kid and I would watch it and I was always disappointed by this resolution where the armies just kind of stay put and then they go mano a mano towards the end and I just wanted the combat between these two guys to be more like ferocious and dynamic and but revisiting it
Oh,
now, I like it a lot better actually. I think this holds together pretty well.
oh yeah, I didn't know this is where that was going. Are they gonna have like a big country esque fight?
Yeah, well it's very like there's no finesse to it. You know, there's like very little. I mean, you know, it's like just two guys kind of like scrabbling around in the dirt, trying
Oh,
to
okay,
choke each
yeah,
other.
that's definitely what I refer to then. Have you seen the big country?
Oh, the big. No, I didn't catch that. No, I
Oh,
never saw
you would
that.
like it. Really interesting William Wyler movie. It's one of Chris McQuarrie's like favorite movies ever. He loves that shit. If you remember like the fight at the end of Jack Reacher, like it's an
Yes,
explicit homage to the fight that Gregory Peck has in the big country. It's really good.
man, I that sounds fantastic. And you know, I don't think I've ever seen a fight scene with Gregory Peck. So
No, he's awesome. Low key like one of my favorite Hollywood actors.
was he the guy in High Noon? Was that Gregory Peck?
No, no, that's you're
Uh,
thinking of Gary Cooper.
Gary Cooper. Sacrilege. Yeah, sorry. That was a good movie though. See, imagine if they just delayed that surprise to right now. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah, it actually would be. Like it would be like a legitimate surprise. Especially like if earlier in the movie like we focus on them like putting on the brands.
Yeah, definitely.
I like how he's like rushing past everyone thinking that they're gonna look at like his thing. It's like, dude, I can't see shit. You're running on a horse. Like you're blurred.
Yeah, I got really into that movie, The King, recently. I really like that David
Oh, the
Michaud.
Chalamet movie.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody seems to like it except me. But there's that classic battlefield speech thing where it's just like, man, nobody. I mean, five people are going to hear that speech. I never believe that anybody's actually hearing the speech.
Yeah, this is very much like some anime shit.
Right.
I do like this stuff though, where it's like yeah, like fuck having everyone else fight for us. Like let's just fucking go.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I appreciate
Yo,
that.
it's like Mission Impossible 2 with the
Yeah.
motorcycles. Yeah.
Yeah, see, yeah, of course, less expensive to do the finale this way, but I also think more dramatically
Okay, see,
impactful.
I like
So,
the idea of it. This is not good. Like this is
okay.
like okay, I
My
was
initial
expecting like
instinct was right. Yeah.
I was expecting like a fist fight or something. Like they're just like rolling on the ground and like they're in the dust. I'm like, all right, guys, like can we do something substantial here? Like we're not gonna box. We're not gonna do like no. He's just gonna we're wrestling.
Right. Well, since you brought up MI2, I thought they did a great job.
Oh, that's my favorite part of that movie. I love it
Yeah.
so much. Oh, these like step frames. God, Costner, please, please stop.
Wait,
Oh,
did you tweet something recently? Was that you who said like there's a reason why Civil War movies never really catch on or something? Did
yeah,
you?
yeah. Which I
Uh,
guess I suppose is kind of like a quasi Civil War movie.
it is. He's even got the saber, that was I bet he loves the Confederates. But see, it's funny. He's saying you have nothing to fight for. I mean, he's just describing himself, really. That's why, you know, right wing movements exhaust themselves after doing a lot of damage, of course.
Oh, dude, the fade-ins, everyone watching. Dude, this is the corniest 90s shit ever, dude. Costner losing his mind, man. Dude, can you even imagine, like, being in the editing bay and being like, yeah, good, keep going. Like, like, come on. Like, okay. Again, I don't, you know me, I'm not cynical about these things, but holy fuck, right? Like,
Well, I figure. I mean, if thinking about it from an editing perspective, it must be because they're trying to cover for something. Like it probably wasn't looking that good.
I don't think so. I don't
Really?
think so. I think
Yeah.
that was a choice.
Well, see, this is my worst. This is my least favorite part of the resolution here is that that it's even a question that you should blow this guy away. That like they devote like it feels like this endless scene right here where they're like going back and forth about like how righteous it is to kill Genghis Khan.
See that was a good camera move right there. When like he gets up
Yeah, that was
by
tight.
grabbing the gun.
I have a friend from college who's got a big bushy mustache, and he works as like a background actor in like he's worked in like every Western for like the last 10, 20 years. And
Damn.
it's just because that mustache, he just looks like a guy who would fit right in
Hell
into any
yeah.
of these shots right here, and I'm
I
very
like how
proud
like
of him.
all the racist guys are gonna be like, oh, I guess we won't kill anymore. Like, dude,
Yeah,
they
I
had
always
a
wonder about that. Yeah, what are they gonna do now? I love when Ridley did that in Kingdom of Heaven, where they plunged
oh
the
that
sword in right next
yeah.
to the
I
head. Yeah.
I love that shit. Oh, you know I'm obsessed with that. Man, what am I doing a Kingdom of Heaven commentary? It's one of my favorite movies ever.
I was gonna ask you about that actually,
We
but I
should
mean it's
fucking do it. Let's do it.
I'd love
I
to.
again like I think we're just like let's do all 3 hour movies.
But Kingdom of Heaven, like I think we've done admirably on this one. But Kingdom of Heaven, there's so much to talk about with that one.
Dude, this is like the most American thing. It's like first law, no more killing, and like we have this whole resolution. We have to contrive some way to kill the villain.
Gotta apologize for my cat here.
Yeah, this guy looks like the fucking like the Slavic Stallone or something.
Yeah, he looks good. I mean, he could easily be like a Stallone sibling or like
He should be in a
uncle.
John Milius movie.
Yeah, or I mean, he looks even a little like Milius.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, speaking of Genghis Khan.
What did Milius do a Genghis Khan movie? Or
No, but
write
he
one?
always wanted to.
God, that would have been that would have
He
been
should
like
have
what?
done one. He would have been amazing. He'd be like probably the only guy in history who's actually qualified to make one.
Yeah, great point.
Have you seen the Rough Riders?
No, is that John
Oh,
Wayne?
no, it's Milius. No, you would love that. You seriously watch that. It's like a mini series, but it basically plays like a movie. It's kind of oddly and close in spirit. I think it actually came out the same year as this. Yeah, I have it on DVD. It's kind of rare, but yeah, definitely worth checking out. It's like his like kind of him like making another movie about Teddy Roosevelt.
Hmm. Oh, of course, the Rough Riders.
Hmm.
Their child is named Hope.
Yo, whoa, it's symbolic.
Yeah, biggest surprise of the film by far. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask to be a postman.
it's, it's like Adam Jensen. I never asked for this. It's a mantle I wear, but it does not define me.
Now, I was joking about like the very ending of the film.
Oh,
I
look at this. What is
yeah.
this? What?
Right.
Oh, okay. You know what? Bless him. He's trying.
But like they do this flash forward like 50 years later or something. Not 50 years, more like, 30 or 40 years later. And it's basically the ending of The Dark Knight Rises.
What the fuck? Oh, wait, hold on. It's like 30 years later. It's like,
Now it's
but
like
everything,
Carmel.
everything was good.
Funny, like America won't talk to each other anymore in the light of the Clinton impeachment.
That's right. That's right. What we need is unity.
Right? It's the same bullshit every time. But yeah, watch this. This is great.
What is this? What am I doing? What? Oh, come on. Are you kidding me? Are you,
The
what?
best.
You have got to be kidding me, man.
I actually
Wow.
forgot about like when I watched this yesterday to like brush up. Like I'd actually forgotten about this little coda. And look, this is the best. Guess who that guy is?
Wait, is that his kid? What? No. Oh my god. Wow,
No,
dude.
you gotta watch it though. They really end with a heater here.
They play it back. They're like, play it back.
It's like it's clearly the best part of the movie. We need to return to it. Now I forget if it's that kid's face is the last shot. I think it is. Anakin Skywalker here.
Wait, is this Jake Lloyd?
No, no, it'd be great if it was though.
Oh my god, if it was, I would lose my mind. I would just like, I would get locked up in like the Lovecraft asylum. They would never let me out.
And then somehow like Star Wars was the movie he got bullied for, not this
Oh,
one. That was
Giovanni
really funny.
Ribisi as Bandit number 20. How could we forget?
But hey, you got to give him props. Look at how like high in the call sheet he got, with not even having an
That's
actual
right.
name.
That's right.
Well, I think we should give each other a round of applause for going the
Yeah.
distance with.
Well, I'm looking. There's 5 minutes of credits, so we shouldn't applaud ourselves yet. Wait, anything might happen. The sky might fall without us finishing this movie.
Oh yes, okay. Look, Letterboy is Joe Costner. So these are all of Kevin Costner's
Dude,
kids in the
that
movie.
I knew it. That son of a bitch did it, dude. Okay, I'm a little bit mad, but I have respect. I'm respecting the daring of it.
Yeah, I mean,
Just the
make work
just the
projects.
sheer the sheer boldness. So what have we learned from this movie, Patrick? I would say for my half, effectively nothing. I mean, I
Nothing at all, right?
well, I will say
Firstly,
this. I'll say this. I like letters. I like getting and receiving letters. So thank you to the Post Office of America. Truly one of the only like probably non-corrupted institutions in this capitalist hellhole.
yeah, they're doing
Uh,
everything they can though.
yeah, yeah. They got Kevin Costner on their side, so they can't give up. But yeah, this is a movie from the
Well, hey,
90s.
like I think we've all been feeling depressed at just like this AI bullshit and like the crass like adrenalized corporatization and
Warner
of
Brothers
everything.
falling apart.
And I think you use the word like the totalization of like just the way that I don't know, just like the medium itself seems to be decaying. And like I would watch The Postman 5 times back to back before I would, want to get. I haven't even seen The Flash once, so I've got to commend you for going in, going into enemy territory and doing your best to, you know, lend some clarity to that. But like, I think there's just things have changed a little bit. This is from a bygone era. This film.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if it came from an era, like as much as it was just like an outlier, even in its own era. But well, I mean, I suppose I will be generous and say, well, it's not the Flash, which is uh, a good thing. Um,
But doesn't let it
yeah.
off the hook.
Well, I mean, really, like, again, I like Costner, but Costner just like he's kind of like a void. He's like a black hole at the center of this movie. Like, there's just nothing going on, and like it's not really beautiful or picturesque enough to really make up for that. Like it's not even because usually I could be like, ah, well, performances, whatever, but it's well directed. Like I can't say that too much. Like it's not terribly directed, but
It's
yeah,
very
I don't know.
workmanlike.
Yeah, it's very much like, oh, wait, we showed up and we pointed the camera at a place and we got some pretty shots, and okay, good. I'm glad.
Well, in that sense, Waterworld is far superior. I mean, I think
That's
they're
right. That's right.
yeah.
How could we forget the superiorness of
Water, water,
Waterworld?
water beats dirt every time.
Yes, yes, yes. I think there's like, what is it like? It's like Avatar: The Last Airbender. You got the rock paper scissors elements.
The logo for the Postman is like the font that they use. It's very like it looks like Battlefield Earth or something, as
Yeah,
opposed to like this text.
it's like the same family as like the Avatar papyrus font.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this is like this doesn't really like it straddles a lot of different things, and it's not particularly exceptional at any one of them.
Which is okay. Look, hey, sometimes I'll tell. I'll say this. Sometimes it's okay for a movie just to be a movie. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
I
and Will
just
Patton, I love Will Patton in this. I actually think he did an amazing job. Great villain.
the soundtrack on Warner Sunset Records. Um, okay, so all right, Pat. Do you have anything to share with our audience? Anything going on with you? Any thoughts? Any feelings? Anything you
Well,
want to show?
Well, I should be putting more time into my letterbox, or I will be putting more time in my letterboxed, which we'll include in the notes. So please, look at my little ditties about various films. Follow me on Twitter, and I hope to get to Wyatt Earp eventually.
What, on your own or
Oh well, I would love to
because
watch Wyatt Earp with you, but we
yeah,
should we
okay.
should really do Kingdom of Heaven. Kingdom of Heaven is what we
No,
should.
I'm gonna tell you right now that Wyatt Earp ain't ever gonna happen. We are never watching that. You get one Postman, and that's it. I've you delivered this letter to me. We are not going back to the Pony Express with goddamn Wyatt Earp. No
Fair
fucking way.
enough.
No way.
How about yourself?
Oh, well, I mean, this is my channel. This is my
Oh,
life.
oh, yeah, yeah. You don't need to.
It's all
Right.
me. I'm my own advertisement. Um, well,
The story names, characters, and incidents are fictitious. Well, could have fooled me.
no. This was what this actually happened in 2013, just like how Escape from LA also happened in
Yeah.
2013 at the same time. Oh, yeah. To anyone who like actually listened all the way to the end of this, like,
We commend you.
I mean, like you're the real hero. You're the real postman. I salute you.